Hey now, 1 minute late. Almost. Just got off a call. Every Monday I have a call with, I told you guys about that business cohort that I was in. Still in it. I'm in year 2 of that. So we got a Monday night call. I get to spend time talking to my family on all the things that they're doing and learning about all the cool things they're doing and update them on stuff that's going on here. But welcome to Mastermind Academy. Welcome to Python Night. I always love the Python days because we don't need to be on here until midnight like we are on the DevOps side of things. But yeah, let me know. I didn't get to do a sound check. Whoa, let me see. I didn't get to do a sound check. What's my sound look like? You guys hear me pretty well? Let me check the levels. Everything sounds good. Hey, Paul Blart, Mauled Cop. What's up? Hey, Will. What's that? Weasley? Weasley. Wheezy? It's just Wheezy. 9954. I'm hoping that's Lil Wayne Wheezy. But cool, SVJR. Thank you, loud and clear. All right, I'm glad you all can hear me. You all, if you weren't here yesterday, you'll see my background, paying a little homage to Kobe. Rest in peace, Kobe and his daughter. Pretty sad times for someone who, in the U.S., especially the African American communities, like Kobe's an icon. So hurt a little bit. So rest in peace, Kobe. That's why I changed my background. We'll leave this up for the week, for sure. All right, let's see. Tonight, what are we talking about tonight? I think tonight is the first week on here where we're getting into the fun stuff. And this is, we're finally catching up to all the, tonight is where we're going to basically, this week, we'll basically put you at the end of where the 2 days of Golang, the 2 streams of Golang went for the DevOps course. We kind of did. So imagine everything you've done up to here. We did it in 2 classes for Golang, which is tough. But the goal wasn't to learn Golang. It was just to get their hands on some code. But let's check out the curriculum. Tonight, we're going to cover conditionals and control flow. So now we're getting into the logic of things. We started with logic, getting into logic last time with conditionals. And this is actually supposed to be conditional execution, not just conditionals. So we did conditionals last time. But it's conditional execution and control flow. And so you're gonna learn some of that tonight. And we will do at least 1 algorithm tonight, maybe 2. We'll start the algorithm section. We're gonna get in there. Have we done, or we have get good in a couple streams. Then we'll do some algorithms later this week. We know just enough to start working through some algorithms. There's some concepts that we don't already know that we'll have to just lightly cover in there. But again, that's the learning process. That will be great. So I hope everyone's excited about that. All right, let me just get everything set up. Yesterday I kept having problems with my little Synergy server that moves my mouse back and forth. Looks like it's working well today, but hopefully we won't have any issues with it today. Let's get the slides going for anyone who doesn't have the slides already. Slides should have dropped in the Google Classroom. If you don't have access to Google Classroom, I will share the slides right now. What am I looking for? Pop in there, Drive. Tonight on the LaCroix front, tonight we have a new one. We have a new flavor tonight. We have passion fruit. So, we usually go with the lemon and the lime. The lemons, for the lemons, the party drink. It's the one that we want to have with us. It's the Old Faithful. So we still have that, but that's the backup tonight. We're giving passion fruit a try. Much different feel, can, different color, different vibe. It's not quite as, a little more of a matte finish on the can. Passion fruit, not a fruit that you drink often, or at least not a fruit that I drink often. But I don't know. So I don't even know if it tastes good. I don't know if it tastes like passion fruit. It's doing its job. I'm not disgusted by it like I am with the coconut one. But yeah, we added a new one since berry didn't work out for us. We will use this to stay parched. So let's go in here. What are we on? Conditional execution. Short slide set tonight. The concepts tonight are actually pretty short, actually very similar to last time. But this time we're going to be combining just about everything we learned last time with the things that we learned this time. So I actually might pull up both sets of slides. And actually, let's do that. Let's pull up both sets of slides here. This is the one we want. because we're gonna be dealing with everything we do tonight is gonna be based off of these operators and these conditionals that we learned last time. So it's gonna be exciting. But we'll give people till about 8:10 again, because we don't need to rush. We can take a real chill. We'll have a lot of time to play around tonight. So we'll give people till 8:10. But how's everyone doing tonight? What's today? Monday? How was everyone's weekend? You know, how anyone have anything exciting they got coming up this week? Cran Raz the way to go. So we have Cran Raspberry. I'll try it out. It doesn't really like scream like choose me when I open up the fridge and there's a bunch of flavors. It's usually at the bottom as well, and you know I got my arms aren't that long, so I'll make the effort to squat down and grab a Cran Raz just to make sure I give all of them a fair shake. And make sure I know which ones I want. We had a LaCroix tasting at work a couple months back, but I remember. I wasn't drinking them that much then. I didn't remember what was good and what wasn't. I only know that I hated the coconut, so that's all I hated. I mean, that's the only one I know I don't like. Let's see here. Ooh, Hawaii ball club. That's awesome. Oscana Day. Maui was gorgeous. Missed the rain from the bay while I was gone. That's I guess that's fair. That's awesome. I want to get out to Hawaii. I've done a lot of I've done a decent amount of traveling, but never been to Hawaii. At the 11th hour, welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. Hawaii is one of the states I haven't been to. I've definitely been to a majority of the 50 states. I've definitely been to over 25 of them. Definitely got to make it out to the rest. Lazy Monday. I feel you, right? Like it's easy to be lazy on Monday, and it always sucks because it's easy to be lazy on Friday as well. So there's usually a lot to come back to on Monday. But yeah, you put the slides again. The classroom slides has really. Let me see. I think Google Classroom is having trouble linking when I think if I change the name or something of the slides, I don't think it's linking properly because I did rename it. Let me add it just so it's in there, but then I'll give you guys the link as well. That's super weird. Learning all the caveats of Google Classroom. Whoa. Oh, I'm in the wrong. I was like, I don't even see all my classes, but I was in the wrong Google account. Let me get in the right Google account. All right, coding with Python, classwork, slides, view. How do I edit material? Yeah, I think when I schedule it, it doesn't always work properly. Edit, attach it again. All right, check and see if you can see it now. It's been updated. I can see it on my end, but let me go ahead and get you guys the share link. Anyone with the link? And again, like I said, there's only 4 slides tonight, and you also might want to grab the ones. I'll give you the ones for the conditionals one because we'll be using that as well. Am I doing something wrong? The Google Classroom has some things missing on emails. Also, if you go to the view all only links for the first week's show, really? What do you mean missing some things on emails? Like the email that it sends out by default? I'll check that out. I'm just putting that in my list to check that out. Do you mean the emails that let you know when something is released? Is that the email you're talking about? View all only links for the first week's show. Okay, I'll check the view all tab as well. I thought I understood how to use this, but maybe I don't. I'll figure it out. Cool. All right, we're at 8:10 now. Let's get going. We're gonna go slow. And actually, let me give you the other link as well to operators because we're gonna be operating off of this as well. No pun intended. Or at least referencing it, maybe not operating it. Let's see, copy link. So the first link is tonight's show. The second link is from last week. It's from Wednesday of last week, and they will both be valuable if you didn't have the link for last week's one. Cool. Conditionals and conditional execution and control flow. True or false? True or false is under there because conditionals and control flow rely heavily on Boolean values. Boolean values are very important. What do we say Boolean values are? They're true or they're false. So what is conditional execution? It sounds real complicated. It sounds real fancy. It sounds like we're going to do something super cool tonight. It's not all that. It's not all that fancy. It's checking a condition that says, hey, if this thing is true, only execute something, if something is true. And control flow is using that conditional execution to control how the program operates, and the way the data flows through it, and the way things are processed in your application. So really not that, these aren't crazy concepts, even though it kind of sounds like it. And so you see the logic slide again, because again, I want you to know all the pieces that are tools, and I want you to know all the pieces that are going to help decide the logic. So we've seen that already. So conditional execution. We learned about conditionals last time. We learned how to check if things were equal to things, and we learned how to check if things were greater than or less than. We learned at the and the or operators as well. And so we can use all these things to state a condition. And then we can use conditional execution to decide whether or not to do something based on whether or not something is true or false. So conditional execution, these are if statements. And this is what you'll commonly hear. One of the ways to do conditional execution are if statements, the most common way. There are ternary operators and some other things that I'm going to show you tonight. But the concept here, again, focus on the concept, is if something is true, basically do something. So just focus on the first part up here. And it says, if something is true, do something. And I think we've messed around with this a little bit. And we'll start right here just to make sure we're not going to go over all of it and and you don't know what's going on. We'll go over it one at a time so you can get the pieces one at a time. So we did a lot of bash stuff last night. That's what all that was. Nothing fancy. Let's see. I meant to move this DevOps Bootcamp one. Let's go ahead and let's create a folder tonight. Make their control. Let's go conditional exec. CD in there. All right, so we have this folder here. Let's talk about if statements. So if.py. Okay, so if statement is something just like this. Let's set a variable. Let's get away from name. Let's go to something cool like fave color. I don't really know what my favorite color is, to be 100% honest with you. It changes so often, but let's say my favorite color was blue. And again, what do we do here? Let's practice what we've learned. Oh, are we buffering? Let me check. I'm not actually looking at my output. It looks clean. Looks clean for my output. Let me know, guys. Definitely let me know if I'm buffering, but it looks clean for my output. So I'm gonna keep on moving. Try refreshing. Definitely try refreshing. See if you can see if that fixes things. All right. So we've got this. We've set a variable and we've assigned it the value of the string blue. So my favorite color is blue here. And then we can use an if statement to be able to set a condition and do something with it. So I can say if, this is how you start an if statement, is just the if keyword. And then after you write the word if, must come the conditional. And actually, let's put some notes in here so that when I'll give you this code and you can grab it, and if you want to refer to it, it'll help. But for me too, haven't restarted after a few updates though. Maybe I'll have to even lower the bit rate more, but yeah, definitely let me know if more people start buffering. Let me know, because it still looks good over here, but I have pretty good internet, like through Ethernet over here now. All right, so if is how you get it started, and let's say use the if keyword to start an if statement followed by a condition to evaluate. We could change that. We can make it a little better. I just wanted to have a little placeholder for what comes after. So we use if. We use if here. So we need to set a condition. So with this, we can check to see if our favorite color, maybe this application checks if someone's favorite color is red. And we can say if favorite color equals red. And so remember, we learned about those comparison operators. So we're comparing the value of favorite color to red. We're seeing if what's on the left and what is on the right is equal. And again, we have to make this a string. So if favorite color is equal to red, then go ahead and print that is my favorite color too. All right. So all we have in this whole application is a single if statement, a single conditional executor here. So it's going to run a comparison and it's going to decide if this is true or not. If statements run as long as this value evaluates to true. This value has to evaluate to true for what's underneath it to run. If not, it will not run. Again, that's the execution control. We are putting some parameters around whether or not this code will execute. So this statement has to evaluate to true, and if so, it will go ahead and it will execute the code we provided to it. If not, it will not. So what do you think is going to happen here? We're looking for the favorite color to be red. Our favorite color is blue, so we should expect it not to run. So let's go ahead and save it, and let's exit, and let's go ahead and run this. Python 3, what do we call this? If.py, and when we run it, nothing at all happens. We get no output. So how do we know what happened? Let's take a look back at our application. We look at it. This application doesn't actually do anything, so it actually looks good. We didn't get any errors. It took us back to the command prompt, so I think things are looking good here. So it did run, and we didn't expect it to print this because our favorite color wasn't red, so that looks good. So let's go ahead now and change our favorite color to red. And let's go ahead and run it again. And this time, when favorite color is red, it says that's my favorite color too. So it ran it. Simply because it evaluated this statement. And again, this statement, this is up to you to decide the statement for you to create the conditions in which code will run. And that's how you really start to make your logic powerful in code. So let's just start adding in some of the extra things that we've learned. Let's actually instead make this input so that we can pass in, make a little bit of a more interactive application. So we're going to instead get input from the user, and we're going to say, what is your favorite color? Question mark, colon, space, so it looks good as a prompt. Close that out. So let's run this again. And if I type in something like yellow, we get no output, which is good because we're checking for red. But again, if we pass in red as our favorite color, it says this is my favorite color too. So that's all our application is doing so far. It's checking and it's making sure that our favorite color is equal to red. So that is an if statement. That is the first section of our conditional execution. So that is the first thing. So we can check that. We could check that all day. We could do many if statements. So I could do something like this really quick, just so you can see that if there are more. So let's yank this down, yank, escape, PP, undo. All right, let's do one, and let's do two. Let's do two here, and let's check for a couple things. And we can say something like this. If favorite color is red, we'll check for a couple things. Blue, yellow, and we'll have it display different things. Yellow, that is not, I mean, you could spell yellow that way. You shouldn't spell yellow that way, but you could. It seems phonetically correct. The word Joe or Mo, so yellow. We don't only learn coding here, we learn a little bit of English as well. But we also learn best practices, and so don't add in the E there. But you can say here, this is my favorite color too. I love red, exclamation point. And down here, we can say, this is my favorite color too. Yellow or blue is the best. And we can down here say, this is my favorite color too. Everyone loves yellow. So we got some different output here. We have some different output, and there are 3 if statements here. So what do you think it's going to do? What do you think it's going to output? It all depends on what we pass into it. We're going to pass in some colors, and let's just watch the behavior of this application and see how it outputs things. So I'm going to pass in black, and black doesn't print anything, which kind of makes sense. We only had the colors blue, yellow, and red handled in there. So let's go ahead and pass in each of those, and let's see what happens when we pass in. We'll start with red because the red is the first one. So we're expecting to get I love red here. And I'm not sure if we're expecting to get anything else, but let's go ahead and run that. Let's pass in red. And that is my favorite color. I love red. And it only ran that line. But what happens if it runs yellow? This is my favorite color too. Everyone loves yellow. So again, it does evaluate. Let's just do blue so you can see blue. And we get blue is the best, but it does go through in this case and it evaluates each if statement. So first it checks this one, says, nope, your color is not equal to red, so I'm not going to print this. And the application continues to run, checks this, says, nope, your favorite color is not blue. So it drops through and it keeps running. I won't say it drops through. It evaluates the statement to be true or false. If it's false, it does not run this code right here. And then it gets here and it says, yep, favorite color that you passed in is yellow. I'm going to go ahead and spit out this code. So very, very simple here. Let's see. No RGB. No, I mean, I could have. Yellow's the new pink. Definitely recipes, Kobe. What happens if you type 2? What do you mean? Do you mean the number 2? Or do you mean the, whoops. You mean number 2? Or let's try that. We could type in a number and nothing would print. We can type in 2. Oh, you mean, are you asking if I typed in 2 like colors? Like this? Or like, yeah, like 2 of the conditions? Oh, that's a great question. That is an excellent question. So if I type in 2 of the conditions into the same line, the only way to do that is to do something like red, blue. And if I type that in, nothing happens. So that's a great question. Let's talk about why. Let's talk about why that didn't happen. It's because if we let's open up a program and let's actually look at what favorite color is when we get it. So fave. Let's go print fave color first. Fave color, and actually let's print. This is our fave color with, just so we can get some space here, comma. So let's look at that, and then let's also print type. I don't even think I need the print here. Actually, yes, I do. Print. Let's check the type of fave color as well. All right, so we're gonna print out what our favorite color is, and we're gonna print out the type. Whoops, I need another thing here. Let's go ahead and let's run this again. So favorite color is red, yellow. All right, so it says this is our favorite color, and so it does read in red and yellow, so it gets what I passed in, but it also says it's a class string. Whatever comes out of input by default, if you don't do any typecasting, type coercion, it is a string by default. So it reads this as one entire string. So even though I pass in two things, this is not like command line arguments that are positional. This is one entire string, including the space that's in between here. And so this string is not equal to the string red or yellow. And so you can't really pass in two things in that manner by default for the input of for the input function by default like that. Oh, cool. Let's go ahead and remove those. But that was a great question. I like that. Why are you asking the color after assigning, testing, and printing it? Oh yeah, that was just to make sure we were getting what we passed into it. We want to make sure favorite color was what we expected, and we just want to see the type of it, just to see how it was handling it. So even if I passed in a number 2 or 3, input by default is going to always be passed in as a string unless you handle it otherwise. Oh, okay, cool. All right, no biggie. Let's keep going. Now you got ifs. So how can you have more control? Ifs great. Like you can have those all day. But there are sometimes, like the thing we just did here, where if evaluates all these if statements run no matter what. All the if statements that we have here, they all run. They're all separate. So this is one statement here. It runs, it exits. This runs, it exits. This runs, it evaluates, it exits. But what we can do is we can add a little more logic to this. So if something is true, do something. We can also add in another option that says, else if something else is true, do something else. So else if is an option that is available in every programming language as well. So you can have if something is true, do something, and else if will only run. It needs two things to happen for it to run. It needs the if statement that was above it to be false, so that it can hit that block, and then that statement, the if else conditional you put in there, must be true. So let's take a look. That can be a little bit confusing, but let's see that in action. So let's combine this. Let's combine these by using else ifs. So instead of what is it in here? Is it elif? That feels right. But is it not set like this? Let's comment these out for a second. All right, so just look at this for a second. I might need to change the syntax of this real quick, but take a look at this for a second, and let's look at this block. So this is actually looked at as one conditional block once I get it set up properly. But if you see an else if can't live by itself. An else if needs to be nested underneath an if. And so actually, what is it? Is it elif or is it? I'm just looking at the colors. It's one of these. I'll figure it out in a second. We'll run it and see. So it is elif. Cool. Thank you. All right. So this is one. Imagine this as one conditional block. So run an if statement. We'll say if this is true, run this. So if that's not true, usually this would, it will be done. It will be done with this. The next thing it's going to do now is it's going to, if you add an else if, it's going to evaluate the next block. And an else if requires you to specify another conditional. So so you run the first piece, then the second piece is going to check if it's red, then it's going to check if it's blue. So in this scenario that we've been working, this is almost the same thing. Like this is really very similar to what we already had in the scenario. We're going to see tonight though why you're going to need to do this sometimes. So let's just take a look and let's try to run this. Favorite color is red, and so we get the first block there because it matches the first thing. It matched this if block. Now let's run it again and let's type in our blue, and it still matches blue. Now let's go ahead and re-add in. I commented this out for a reason down here. In this case, this is one of the reasons why you would want to use an else if instead of a bunch of ifs. So in the event that you use a bunch of if statements, they all get to run. If will run, even if it's false, it'll keep going. It'll run the next if, it'll run the next if. In this case, we could put this as an else if, but all the ifs will run if they're all ifs. But if you put a bunch of, if you make this an else if chain, so you can have multiple else ifs. So we can make this line also an else if. It's all kind of seen as one block, as one kind of piece of code, and it evaluates basically in order until it finds a match. And once it finds a match, is when it drops out of this section. So if we don't want something to basically have to evaluate over a bunch of if statements, and we wanted to just find the one that, I mean, it will evaluate in order, but we wanted to find that and basically drop out of what it's doing, then that's why we would use else if, and that's going to make more sense later on tonight when we get into a little bit of algorithm work. We are going to start algorithms tonight, actually, or at least get our hands on some. So I can make this an if. So if it's red, do this. Else if it's blue, do this. Else if it's yellow, do this. So let's take a look. And again, this is the same code basically as before, and we'll get the same functionality here. But it is important to note, we're going to add in some things to help you see it, but it is important to note that these are not three separate blocks of code. These else ifs could not exist without this first if statement. And in these cases, it can only match one. So if we had a bunch of ifs, actually, let's go ahead and change that. So let's say they all weren't, let's do this. Let's say if our favorite color is red, this, but let's also say, let's say fave color, let's say length of favorite color. So we're gonna check the number of things in favorite color, which is gonna be the number of characters, let's say equals 3. So these two things can both be true. So if I pass in red, if I pass in favorite color is red, then this is true. But this line right here is also true. The length of favorite color, so the amount of letters that are in favorite color would also be 3. So this would also be true. But what happens when I run this and I type in red? Simply the first option runs. So let's, just to show you that the second option is also true, let's just add a letter to red and run it again. And if I run it again, it runs the second option, which is blue is the best, even though I typed in red. But again, that matched this conditional. So in a block like this, when there are ifs and there are else ifs, only one match can happen. It matches on the first thing that is true, and then it exits. It will not evaluate any further after that. So you have to be careful with else ifs. If it can match more than one case, you want to use this when the cases are explicitly exclusive. And so this would be an option for an if statement down below. So I could take this stuff right here, and I could put this down below, and I can make this, oh wow, undo. I can change this. Whoa, almost get it. I'm getting so close to being good with this keyboard. So you do something like this, and so here, it would basically evaluate every single time, no matter what I passed in. It'll check this first. It'll run this block, do some comparisons. And then it'll always run this if statement at the bottom because they are separate. Every time you see if, it will work. So let's run that in a second. Let's see, Python, running on stream earlier, doing some data generation. That's awesome. Cool. Yep. Yeah. Python's pretty dope. Even though I'm starting to like it more. Even just going through this course and thinking about it a little differently, it's pretty good. How deep are we going with this boot camp? Check out academy.mastermind.io. If you check that out, you can see what we are going into and how deep we're going. Definitely need to stream some maybe this week. So I didn't know anything about Mavis Beacon. We did not learn anything. We had no typing classes in my school. And I went to decent schools, and like we did not have any typing classes ever, and everyone always makes fun of me. I might do some Mavis Beacon on stream. Honestly, that might be pretty cool. That might be my Friday office hours thing to see if I could be great at typing. Yeah, try lowering the quality. Oh man, I'm really sorry that it is not streaming. Maybe I'll try messing with my bit rate so it's even lower. It's not super low right now because I'll stream in a little bit lower quality, but I'll upload to YouTube in highest, like the recording will be in super high quality. So hopefully that might fix some things. Make sure you guys get the best, but it does look all right on mine. All right, so down here, again, just know, back to what we were doing, the if statements will always run. Every time you see an if, it will, if it is on the top level. We haven't talked about scope yet, but as far as you're concerned right now, whenever you see an if statement, it will run. It will do that every time. But if you see an else if, it may not run. If the things above it are true, it may not ever get down to that point, but this is one block here. All right. So the last thing, there's one more option here in this conditional execution tree here. There's one more thing you can use to make sure that you can make some decisions and execute code accordingly. And the last thing is else. So basically what do you do in a default case? And in a default case, you can use else. Because else is a default case, and again, think about the words here. You say, if something is true, do something. If something else is true, do something else. Else, do anything. And so that else does not need a conditional. The else is the catch-all. It actually cannot take a conditional because that's what an else if is for. So we can do something like this. We can only check for, let's actually bring this back up a little bit. Let's bring this up and let's make this an else if, and then let's go ahead and add an else here and say print I don't like your favorite color. That's a little bit mean, but this person in this application does not like your favorite color. Let's change this up here back to blue. Let's go ahead over here and get rid of the length here. But this, again, is an entire block. And so it goes in order and evaluates in order. And the only way that the else will run is if nothing above it is true. So again, these conditional statement blocks stop once they find a match. They execute the code underneath, and that is all they do. Thank you for shouting out. I'm glad I caught a glimpse of that in the chat. Appreciate it. Good catch. So let's see here. And let's run this. So favorite color is red. We go ahead and get the output that I love red. Let's do yellow. We get everyone loves yellow. Let's go ahead and do blue. And we get blue is the best. But what if you are a lover of green? I'm wearing a green shirt right now. What if you love green? Green's fine, but I don't love green, but it's fine. But if we type in green, it says, I don't like your favorite color, which is mean, but what if it's black? Or what if it's brown? Or what other colors are there? Fuchsia. I think that's how you spell it. Is it C-S-I-A? I don't know. No, I think it's definitely the other way around. Or maybe there's no C in it at all. I don't know. But all these colors that don't match the cases in which we provided, these Boolean statements, these comparison statements, all the ones that don't match that, it drops through to the else statement. Mauve is a good color. Mauve is a purplish hue that I only know. I think it's purplish, like brown, like almost brown hue. I think I only know about mauve from Hey Arnold. I'm pretty sure that's where I learned about mauve. Yeah, it's like a purpley, pale purple. Definitely from Hey Arnold. That's the only reason I know about it. Cool. So take a break there. Does anyone have a question about conditional execution? And again, you can chain together as many of these as you would like. So it's not, I only have 4 here. But again, you can only have one if, like as a part of the same statement. You can only have a single if and a single else. If you're going to chain them all together, you need to have you need to have a bunch of elifs in the middle, else ifs in the middle. And you can only have 1 and 1. So if I were to change this to an if, this is now simply a new statement. So it's basically seen as a new block of code which must run and be evaluated. And now this section here becomes its own section of code. And again, else if and else need an if statement to where you can't just use else if out there. You can't just start. This first thing couldn't be this. And let me show you what happens if you do something like this. It says syntax error, invalid syntax on line 4, simply because it has no idea what to do with that, because that's wrong. That does not follow what it wants. Oh yeah, walrus operator it's nice. It only makes sense to me because I have spent so much time with Go. And Go uses it, so it kind of just makes sense. But it can definitely be interesting when you're diving into it for the first time. Ultraviolet is a good movie with what's her name? I'm thinking of Aeon Flux. Ultraviolet's a movie, right? Let's see. Ultraviolet movie. I think it's like Aeon Flux. Yeah. Ultraviolet wasn't that good. Aeon Flux was more enjoyable for sure. Depends on just having a ton of elif statements tank performance. So that is an excellent question. It can. If performance matters, yes. If you have a ton of them, absolutely. For most modern computers, like right now, for the things that we want to do, it's usually fine. But yes, if performance is what you are going for, then yes, there are better ways to solve this problem. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But like for most things, like it's not going to take minutes for it to do it. It's just going to be, if you have something processing something very often, it can be problematic. But if you're trying to brute force an algorithm, it's certainly an option, and it won't really add it won't add much noticeable time to your application for most simple things. So helpful. I can think of so many Excel reports at work with if statements. Oh yeah, that streamlines. Absolutely. First off, that sounds like Excel, and anyone who knows Excel, I would love to have you teach a course on here on Excel, because Excel to me is wizardry. My wife is really good at Excel, and she just comes over and just does little stuff and puts in these little formulas. I'm like, man, everyone who knows Excel needs to be PhD candidates, because I don't get it. My mind just, I don't know. I really don't get it. Mila Jovovich is is that who's in Aeon Flux, or is that who's in Ultraviolet? I appreciate it. Love this program. I definitely appreciate it. If you have a ton of conditions to the point that you're degrading performance significantly, you're probably doing something wrong. Absolutely. For sure. Excel is witchcraft. Absolutely. Let me check this out. I'm watching this. I've been putting on like interesting videos and stuff, like when I'm doing a little bit extra work, like after the streams and on the weekends. So I'm definitely saving this. Yeasty goodness. I'm definitely saving this video. I'll watch it to see why I suck at it, because I do. That's the one in Ultraviolet. Okay, yeah, she's also. I like the Resident Evil movies. They're not very good, but they're entertaining. Almost does a bunch of VBA. Yeah, I mean, Excel macros. I don't know, man. I missed the train on all that. I know so many people who did it. I missed the train. The paperclip failed me. The paperclip taught me Word. I learned Word pretty well, but it did not teach me Excel very well. And I actually remember, I think in high school, I took a computer class and we had to do a bunch of Excel stuff. And I remember being like, I don't like this. What do I need to use this for? Cool. So the only actually other thing we're going to talk about tonight, slides wise, like I said, we're going to get hands on in a second. We'll do a little bit of we'll start the algorithms piece, because again, now that we're getting some logic ingrained in what we're doing, I think that'll be pretty helpful. Let's talk about there being more. So this is not a thing in Python. Again, this course is a Python course, but the goal with this is actually to get you an introduction to coding, kind of expose you to a lot of the core concepts of programming and coding, things that are available in a lot of languages. Python is just a great language to use to get across those things and talk about those things. But although it's not available in Python, there's these things called switch and case statements, which give you some functionality. They give you some functionality of if and else's, and they operate a little differently. Oh, some languages, I actually didn't spell anything. That was good. Almost knocked over my passion fruit, but I caught it. Some languages, this is faster because some cases, this is faster depending on the way that the language handles this. Some use hash, like lookup tables. You can like mock this in a couple different ways using dictionaries and things in Python. But it's something I want you to, we're not going to learn these, but I want you to be familiar with a switch or case statement, and take a look at the code on the right. It's very reminiscent of what we just did. So, and maybe we can do one in Bash really quick. We can do a case statement in Bash really quick, but switch. And then, so basically it does switch, and then there's an expression, there's an evaluation that you're checking for. And rather than checking if that is true or false to run, it checks whether or not the case is true or false. So it'll check, if 10 times 3, or your variables equal a certain thing, the case being 10, it'll run this. And then it'll drop out of this. And the break causes it to, you have to explicitly drop out of these comparisons. But it basically allows you to define cases for which code runs. Also, there's a default block here, which again, you can see this being very reminiscent of if and else, else if and else if and else. So again, I want you to be familiar with it. It's not available to you in Python. There are ways to emulate the functionality of a case statement or switch statement in Python, but I just wanted to mention it because you might be learning another language, and you might be focused on ifs and else ifs, where a switch statement may be better for you. Again, there's a lot of information on when to use what and why to use them. There's a lot of opinionated people out there about it. Again, for the most part, computers have come so far. Computing power is become so great that this is for most people. Again, there are a lot of applications that are very heavily trafficked, but for most of the things you're going to be, while you're learning, that you're going to be working on, it won't really matter which one you use. But just wanted to talk about it. Isak, let's do one in Bash really quick. Let's see. All right, 1 second. And we can, so for anyone who doesn't know what Bash is, we're just gonna do Bash because, actually we can do JavaScript as well. Let's do JavaScript, let's do Node really quick. Just so I don't have to type, I talked about it last night. We did a Bash scripting lab. I literally despise, so for Bash is the Linux interpreter that takes in all of your commands. So in Bash, if after I did an if statement like this, to end it, to let the interpreter know that we're done with it, I've got to type in fi. So if backwards will end this statement block right here. What I hate is for a case statement, you start it with case, and at the end, you have case, and you have all of your stuff in the middle, and then you get to the end, and you got to type in case backwards. And I don't know what my problem is. I hate, it feels so dumb that they decided to do that, that this is what they decided to go with to end, to be able to let the shell know you're done with this, that I can't, I don't use them purely for that. I think it's dumb. It's stupid. I can't believe that's what they went with, but they went with it, and people are using it every single day. Let's try it let's do it in Node. Let's make a quick vim case.js. And actually don't even know the syntax for what is it in Node. What is it? It's is it switch? And then hold on, and then case. Actually, see, man, when you jump around, I'm really struggling with the syntax memorization. So let's do JavaScript case statement, and we'll make one really quick. We're just having a little fun. All right. So again, it took us to W3 schools. Very, very exciting. And you can, I actually think this is a screenshot that I took. I could have just referred to that, but I don't know what I was thinking. Let's go ahead and let's paste that in. So we can say something like x, let x equal 20. So this is how that let command is basically how you make a variable in JavaScript. Again, every language is weird. So we got let x equal 20 and let y equal 30. And then I could say switch. And I could say maybe these numbers were being passed in. And I could say check this expression. And if it equals 40, I'm going to print out something. And in JavaScript, it's console.log to print. And the answer is a 40. And let's say case y, the answer is 50. I can say console.log, the answer is 50. And the default is console.log, the answer is too high to count. Even if it's 1, this is exciting. So we have this here. It's going to basically evaluate this statement here, check for the case, for the value, and it's going to run that. So if I do a node case, it goes through and it says the answer is 50 because it ran the expression. So it evaluated the expression. So it did 20 plus 30. And then it checked if the case matched what the output of this expression was. And you can see it went through and it answered 50. So again, you can see how this is very much an if else if. It's basically this condition, and you don't specify the value of what it should equal. You're not checking for true or false. You're checking for values instead of true or false to determine if that code runs or not. How do you get outside of the parentheses when it auto completes? I don't know. I'm assuming. Do you mean in Bash? I mean, do you mean in Vim or do you mean in VS Code? That's a good question. I don't know. Missing VS Code. All right. So again, this is a switch statement. It is not available to you in Python. If you let me make sure it actually sent it in the classroom. But in the Google class, if you're in the Google Classroom, there should be a material on kind of how to achieve a couple ways to achieve the same effect if you need to check against value rather than evaluating for true false. You can find those things in that article that I sent. Hey, OG Jake, welcome. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the channel. All right. What time is it? 8:55. Excellent. So we're going to get a head start on the next class. The next class is all about algorithms. And this may be a little bit, we're actually just going to do some algorithms right now. But the next class, before we hop into algorithms, we'll be talking about like how to approach algorithms, what algorithms are. We're not going to talk about that tonight. We are just going to hop into, now that we have learned some conditionals and we learned some control flow and we know how to make, basically test different cases and run code based on that. I'm going to teach you the the grandpapa of all algorithms. It's not a difficult algorithm, but it is asked. It's still asked places, but it's just something good to know, and it's good to kind of teach some of this functionality. There are things in this algorithm that you haven't learned yet, which are loops or range. We could use either one or still for loops. So when I get to that piece, don't worry about learning that. I'll explicitly tell you not to learn that or not to pay attention to it, because we'll spend time on it. We'll spend time on it after the next algorithms piece. We'll spend time on Monday of next week. But now we can put into practice everything else that we've learned so far. We can put into practice doing this. And obviously this is the infamous Fizzbuzz, but we can do Fizzbuzz is great, but maybe just to make it a little more fun, we're gonna be using a lot of exorcism.io, and they have one called like Pling Plang Plong, which is basically Fizzbuzz but a little bit different. So we're gonna run through that. We're gonna run through that right now, and yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that one instead, because it's a little bit more. I don't know. We've done Fizzbuzz. We've done Fizzbuzz on the DevOps side of thing. People have seen Fizzbuzz. It's the exact same concept as Fizzbuzz, teaches you the exact same things. So let's hop over to Exorcism and take a look. And again, you don't need to set up an Exorcism account right now. That is something we will be doing next time. But you're more than welcome to head over to exorcism.io if you'd like to get an early, start on things, and just kind of get yourself set up. You're more than welcome. I'll paste it in. But we will be using this. We'll be doing a lot of these problems throughout the remainder of this course. So Python, it's called raindrops, and you got to say pling plang plong. So this is the answer here, which I didn't want you to see. And basically what I want is, maybe I have it locally. I actually don't know if I have it locally. But you saw that code wasn't very long, but hopefully you don't have a photographic memory and you didn't remember it. What did I want to do first? I want to check for slash, that feels right. Excellent. Cool. Actually, I don't have it locally. Here's what we're gonna do, because I don't want you to see it. I'm just gonna grab the what's it called? The instructions. Raindrops. And we'll paste it in. Come on, why are you doing this to me? It's not copy and pasting like I want. Let's see. Am I not logged into GitHub anywhere on my desktop? Oh, there we go. Yeah, I am. Exorcism. Log in with GitHub. You haven't learned about GitHub yet, but feel free to also make an account for that if you want. All right, instructions. Okay, time to learn. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop into slash cd. So I just want you all to know, whenever you see me type a tilde, which is this character, I've gotten my keystrokes are getting really good. My keyboard does not actually have a tilde on it. And it actually takes 3 keys for me to hit the tilde. And I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to remember the modifiers and figure out what I'm doing. So I just want you all to be proud of me when you see me do stuff like that. That is why I do type slow, but the reason you see me typing extra slow is because I'm trying to figure out all that. Rebind it, time for a new keyboard. No, nah, this keyboard layout's actually really good. It's really good. And I could rebind it, but I can't think of a better place on the keyboard to rebind it to as like a main key. So I don't know. The better replacements I wish. Now, I'm telling you, this keyboard is super nice. It's amazing. It's is so, look at this, look at the cable. Oh man, she's a beauty if you haven't seen it. And so I'm learning how to type on it. It does not have function row. It's a 60% keyboard. I'm getting there. It's gonna make me a better typist once I practice on Mavis Beacon? Is that what you guys call it? I don't remember what it's called, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the Mavis Beacon. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the directory we want. So what do we want? Documents, what's in here? Mastermind, we just created streams, Python. All right, so let's go ahead and make another directory. And we're gonna call this, actually, we'll go ahead since tonight is a whole class, maybe I'll do it by class, I like that. So we're going to vim raindrops.py. All right, we're gonna paste in, wow, that did not copy. All right, I'm gonna type it. And psych, you guys are just gonna see it, that's fine. Actually, no, you'll see main, no, I know how to do this. You're gonna, there we go, look at that. Now you can see everything that's on my desktop all at once. We will grab, it's actually not that serious. I actually don't care if you see the answer. I don't even want, no, I'm doing all this. Instructions. And we'll take the examples out of here so that you guys can get it. And let's stop showing this. And, oh, I could have just done that. That was dumb. All right, shows whole poker hand. Definitely, that's, it's interesting because my desktop, like, I'm always intrigued because you're not actually seeing my whole desktop. So, like, just so you guys know, when I do this, you're only seeing, I mean, you're seeing more of it than I thought you were seeing because it's spanning the whole thing. There's still a lot of space to the, well, not a lot, but you're probably seeing 85%. There's probably another 15% to get over there. All right, I can't get to raindrops. So you're about to get to raindrops tonight, or at least I'm gonna show you how to mentally solve it, and you can go back and write it yourself without having to know exactly what to do. Cool. Yeah, as I was saying, just type it from scratch and we'll be good. All right. Let's take this, let's put it in here so we can read what we're doing. So let's read what this, and so this is very similar to Fizzbuzz, and I'll tell you what Fizzbuzz is right after we read this. Yeah, so your task, and so this is actually, so let's just take a step back really quick. So when we talk about algorithms aren't really this crazy, it's a big interesting word that people don't use in their normal language to just say it's writing a bit of logic to solve a problem. It's logic basically. It's creating logic to solve a problem for the most part. But a lot of them are word problems, and so what we're really going to be learning in this course is how to use the tools of coding that we're learning to solve problems. We're gonna learn how to read it. We're gonna learn how to kind of process it mentally, because that's honestly, that's half the battle. Like half the battle is knowing, like, understanding what is required of you rather than just hopping in there and coding. Hey, what's that, Escaho? I like that. Escaho. Thank you for the subscription. Welcome to the channel. I appreciate it. But we want to learn how we like can solve these problems and how to think about it. So let's talk through it. Let's talk through how to think about it. Hey, what's that, Kitchad? Thank you. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. Oh, I'm getting a lot of follows here. Thanks everyone who's coming through. Am I getting raid or something? Okay, no, you guys are just being very kind. Cool. So let's talk through it. Your task is to convert a number into a string that contains raindrop sounds corresponding to certain potential factors. Again, a lot of these times, that's just extra wording. We're gonna break out and find out exactly what we need to do. A factor is a number that evenly divides into another number. What did we learn that we already in the back of your mind? You should be thinking about what we learned. We've talked about things that evenly divide into other numbers. So again, just think about that. Leaving no remainder. So they give you, they're already prefacing you with what you have to do. This is good information. Even if you don't have it at the back of, you don't have it on the tip of your tongue right now, when we go over it, you'll be like, yep, that's it. I remember that. The simplest way to test if a one number is a factor of another number is to use the modulo operation. So actually, they gave it to you. They gave you what to use to do this, which is great. I actually really like that, especially since this is one of the earlier problems on exorcism. I'm glad they gave you what to do. All right, the rules of raindrops are this, and so these are the rules of the application for you to incorporate. If given a number, if it has 3 as a factor, add pling to the result. If it has 5 as a factor, add plang to the result, and has 7 as a factor, add plong to the result. So I'll tell you right now, this is actually written very poor. This is written very poorly. And I actually noticed this with exorcism. Some of the questions are written very poorly, and you kind of have to use the tests. They give you some tests to figure out exactly what they want, but we're going to get through this, no problem. If it does not have any of these, so if it doesn't have 3, 5, or 7 as a factor, the result should be the digits of the number. So here's some examples just to kind of make a little more sense, because again, this is not written very well. Maybe we can rewrite this, but it says 28 has 7 as a factor. So that just means that 7 goes into 28 evenly. It goes in 4 times, but 3 and 5 are not factors, but not 3 and 5. So 3 does not evenly go into 28, neither does 5. So the result will be plong because only 7 is a factor. And it's got some other options here. So 30 has both 3 and 5 as a factor, but not 7. So it's also be pling plang. You know what? We have almost an hour. We're going to get to this. We're going to do this second. We are going to do this second. I think we need to build onto this. I think we should actually do Fizzbuzz first. Now, I hadn't done this in a long time. I thought this was a little more Fizzbuzzy, and it is Fizzbuzzy, but I think we should do this part second because I think this adds one more level of complexity. So we're going to save this. We are going to use this, but we're going to switch over to Fizzbuzz. Sorry for the cognitive load. Sorry for the switch in here. I should have checked that out beforehand. So let's do Fizzbuzz first, and then we'll apply what we learned through Fizzbuzz to raindrops really quick because Fizzbuzz shouldn't take us too long to get through. All right, so the famous Fizzbuzz. The famous Fizzbuzz. Let's make that one word. And we're gonna make this comments in a second. But I want you to know what it is that we're doing. So play the game, listen to the background. Awesome. Asco, what game are you playing? What's the fun of that? Might just be able to link the people to the Google solution. That's true. That's true, kinda. Dope. I'm terrible at League of Legends. I'm terrible at a lot of games actually, and I just want to have fun. And people in League of Legends are mean. So, but hey, I appreciate that. Was it Bitcode? Is that what it's supposed to be? Thank you. That's awesome. That's awesome. I like your little snowflake there. That's awesome. All right. The famous Fizzbuzz. Let's talk about what Fizzbuzz is. So Fizzbuzz is a very common algorithm problem used to test. There are places that still use this to test proficiency, and sometimes it can be weird to solve. Like if you haven't done it in a while, like I don't know. It's a fairly simple problem, but being able to do it properly, it can escape people sometimes. So what the problem is the first thing they want you to do, and let's give exact things. We can print. The first thing they want you to do is print the numbers 1 to 100. So a lot of times this will actually say 1 to n. So basically they'll give you the highest number they want you to print to. But for right now, we're going to go to 100, and we're actually going to do 0 to 100. And I'm writing it out like this. This is not how the problem is usually written, but I want to break it down into steps. So 2. So basically they want you to first print out the numbers 0 to 100. And then what they want you to do is for numbers that are divisible by 3, They want you to print fizz. They want you to print the string fizz. For anything that's evenly divisible by 3, they want you to go ahead and they want you to print fizz. All right, so we got two different things here. We got to print out 0 to 100, and we have to, and then we have to, for all the numbers that are divisible by 3, we print out fizz, and maybe we should say, we print out fizz instead of printing the number. And this would be a little more explicit. All right, so the next thing is, actually, let's go ahead because we don't need to do this. What's happening? Gate paste. Paste it again. 3. What's this? 4. Escape. What number do we need to do? F3. All right, for numbers that are divisible by 5, we want to print buzz instead of printing that number. And then for numbers that are divisible by both 3 and 5, we're going to go ahead and print Fizzbuzz. All right. This is basically what Fizzbuzz is. And again, it could be print from number 0 to n, but basically the problem is I want you to go ahead and print out every number for me from 0 to 100. For all the numbers that are divisible by 3, go ahead and print the word fizz instead of printing that number. The numbers that are divisible by 5, I want you to basically replace those by buzz, by string buzz. And any numbers that are divisible by both 3 and 5, I want you to go ahead and print out Fizzbuzz for me. So this is actually a pretty simple problem. Right now, your head's probably churning. Like, we haven't even learned how to print from 0 to 100 yet. And this is the one thing I'm going to give you this right out of the box. It's okay that you don't know this. You shouldn't know how to do this. There are a number of ways to print from 0 to 100 in Python. So it can get pretty exciting. So take a look at that. And we're going to comment this stuff out really quick just so that we can write our code underneath it. But we want to have this up here as something to reference. But go ahead and take a look. See if you can just think about it for a little bit. Just think about it for a little bit. And we are good. So we're going to do this. We are going to do this. Shift I. Escape. All right. Cool. Take a look. Just let it churn. Let it churn for a little bit. All numbers are divisible by 3. Yeah, they are. All numbers are evenly divisible by 3. And so I could I could put evenly in there. Make it a little more simple or more explicit. Evenly. That seems right. Evenly. And I could have just copied that down, but I'm getting... All right, evenly divisible by 3. So maybe that makes it a little more explicit, but let your mind churn over it for a second. And frequency hop, yes, it would absolutely require a loop. And so I'm going to show you guys, again, I'm giving you guys a we're going over some algorithms tonight. We're also going to be learning a little taste of loops right here for sure. You may not get an integer result. Yeah, yep. Cool. All right. So I'm going to give you how to get to 100 first. So what's the simplest way what's the simplest way we can print out 0 to 100? So the simplest way for us to do that would be to go ahead and print 0. And then we could actually go ahead and print 1. And we could print 2. That works. 2. And then we could print 3. And we can do that all the way up to 100. That is an acceptable solution. I absolutely, so you shouldn't do it because again, it takes a lot of time, but it is an acceptable solution to this problem. The problem does not say to do anything specific. It says to do exactly this. So you could, this is a solution. I've seen people submit it as a serious solution. And again, if you haven't, a lot of you may have done it this way if I wasn't going to show you how to do this, because you haven't yet learned the pieces that would allow you to easily create this. But yeah, you could 100%. We clearly have different definitions of acceptable. Yes, I mean, it is correct. It is a correct solution. I will argue with people to the end of the world for that. It is a correct solution. The question is never stated in a way that indicates that you need to do anything fancy. The algorithm is to solve it. Like, it's to do the right thing. It's to answer, and I guess it's to satisfy the AC, or the acceptance criteria of the problem. Absolutely satisfies it. That doesn't mean you're qualified to work on my team or at this company, but it is an acceptable solution. All right. So yes, you could do that, and you could write 100 print statements, really 101 print statements, because of the 0 all the way up to 100. And it would work. It would work. So let's go ahead and delete that. So what you haven't learned yet are there's these things called loops. And what we can use loops for is to execute a piece of code multiple times. It's to execute a piece of code multiple times based on, again, a condition. We're talking about conditions again, and that is why conditionals are so important. So basically, you set a condition, and a loop will basically run for as long as that condition is true. And then once that condition is no longer true, it'll every time it runs, it will check that condition. So if we said in the earlier example tonight, if we could say something like this, a loop would basically be as long as my favorite color is equal to blue, go ahead and tell this person that they have the best favorite color in the world. And so it would ask the user what their favorite color was. I type in blue. It'd say, yes, you have your favorite color is blue. You have the best favorite color in the world. And we have to set up this loop. It would ask us again what our favorite color is. We type in blue again. It will keep running for as long as that's true. Once we enter in something different that makes that conditional incorrect or false, or evaluate to false, it's checking to see if our favorite color is blue, and we type in yellow, that loop will stop running. So again, it only runs as long as it's true, and it evaluates whether or not it's true or false every single time it runs. So it processes, does what it's supposed to do, then it rechecks it and says, hey, is this condition still true? And it goes. So we could use, there are a bunch of ways to count to 100. Well, I mean, not a bunch of ways. There are a handful of ways to count to 100 in Python. So Yeasty Goodness put a great one in here. So there are a few loops. There are while loops, and there are for loops, and there are do while loops. And I think that's how you type it. Or I don't know how you type it in here, but yeah, there are do while loops. But range, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to hold off on the range concept until we get to loops, just because I think that's another level, and I don't want people to be focused on that range thing. We're going to do a while loop, because I think while is a little more descriptive of what's happening. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set up a counter. So let's say we just want to count the amount of times that this loop runs. We want to determine that. So let's say our counter is equal to 0. So we're going to start at 0. We'll start at the bottom. So the first time this runs is the 0, like it hasn't run yet. The counter is on 0, and we want to count how many times it runs. And we want to say that we're going to use this counter. We're going to say while counter. So while is just like the if statement. It is how this keyword is what starts the process here. This executes that or it declares that what we're typing now is a loop. The while goes first. And then now we're going to give it a condition. We're going to put a condition that's going to say, as long as this is true, like while this statement is true, go ahead and run the code underneath this, and keep running the code underneath this. So we're going to say while counter is less than, what number are we trying to go to? We're trying to go up to 100. So as long as counter is less than 100, and Don't worry. I know people are gonna hit me with off by one stuff in a second, but just we'll get there. While counter is less than 100, run this code. So this is the loop here. So basically it's run code. And so this is kind of like an if statement. It's basically saying, if this is true, you could think about a while loop as an if statement or loops as an if statement. It says, basically, if this is true, go ahead and run this code. But a while says, I'm gonna keep doing it until it's no longer true. So you can get into things called infinite loops. Like this could run forever. If we were to do this right now, this code would actually run forever. And we're gonna go ahead and do that actually. So we're gonna say print, we're gonna say print the string hello, and this is gonna go into an infinite loop. I'm gonna run. I'm going to Python 3 fizzbuzz.py, and right now it can't tell, but it's just printing. It just went through and it was running, and I'm scrolling up, and you can see that it's just printing the word hello over and over and over again, and it would do that forever. It would do that forever with the current thing. But why is it doing that? Because again, I said think about this like an if statement. It's basically evaluating this to be true or false. Is counter less than 100? Yes, counter is less than 100. Counter is 0. And so it prints this out and it says, okay, I'm done. Let me go ahead and run again. It says, is counter less than 100? Yep, counter is still 0. And so it runs it again and it does it again. It says, counter are you less than 100? It says, yep, you're still 0. So I'm going to print. So this is an infinite loop. And this is something that you have to be careful of. But what we can do now is we can change the value of counter. And that's why we want to count it. That's why we want to use that as a counter. So then we can do counter. Let's think about the things that we learned in the arithmetic operators section. But we can do counter plus equals. We're going to counter plus equals 1. So we can add 1 to counter every time this runs. So if this code runs and it's true the first time, it'll print hello. Then counter will now add 1 to itself. So it'll add 1 and reassign it back to counter. Again, this is the assignment operator that we talked about. And so now when this goes to run the second time, counter is no longer 0. Counter is actually 1 the second time it runs. It runs again, 1 gets added to it. Counter is now 2. And it does that. So in this case right here, it will only run about 100 times. Yeah, it'll only run about 100 times. So I can run this and we can see that it'll actually end this time. It will not run permanently. And you can see it ran and it stopped. And we can scroll up and see if we counted this, that it ran about 100 times. All right, so how can we use this to count up to 100? We can use this by, instead of printing hello, we can go ahead and actually just print counter. Because counter is counting up and we want to print 0 to 100, we can actually just use this counter and print the value of the counter every time this runs to print from 0 to 100. So let's go ahead and run that, and it goes through and we can see all of our numbers, and it only goes to 99. Why does it only go to 99? It only goes to 99 because we said as long as counter is less than 100, print counter. So when counter is 99, it says is 99 less than 100, and it says, yep, 99 is in fact less than 100. Let me go ahead and print out 99. It does that. Then it says, all right, go ahead and add 1 to my counter. Now counter is 100. It goes back through. It says, hey, is counter less than 100? No, counter is not less than 100. It is equal to 100. Off by 1 errors are often the issue with loops. But how can we fix this? There are 2 ways we can fix this easily. The first one is we can say, hey, well, we know we want to go to 100, so let's go to 101. Yeah, that's great. You could do that. But I think the better option here is to use a different comparison operator. And what is one we could use? We could say or equal to. So I actually have seen people do while counter is less than 100 or counter is equal to 100. Also valuable, also valid. That this will work, but you don't need to. Whoa. You don't need to do that because you can simply add in this operator here. So this says while counter is less than or equal to 100, I will go ahead and run. So once counter is equal to 100, it says is 100 less than or equal to 100? Yes, it is. I will run. Now counter is now 101. Is 101 less than or equal to 100? No, it is now greater than, so it will not run this bit of code. So let's go ahead and run this and make sure we can print to 100. So excellent. We have 0 to 100. So we're able to succeed on the first option. So this is how you would, this is one way to print 0 to 100. There are easier ways. There's so really, there's a range function, which is nice. We're going to talk about those things. I'm just giving you guys a bunch of extra stuff right now because we have time for it. And the earlier you can start hearing about this stuff, the easier it'll be when we're diving deeper into things. But you can also do, you see goodness pasted it earlier. You can say for I in range, like 100, go ahead and print I. So this is actually a very similar thing. We're going to learn about for loops. For is another loop. And basically, range is basically going to go through all the numbers up to this number. And I is a placeholder for whatever option you're on in that iteration of the loop. So this is a way you can print 0 to 100, a simpler way, but don't sweat that right now. Do not worry about memorizing that right now. Not a big deal. We will get into range so that you understand what's happening there, because I want you to know how to print to 100, not memorize exactly how to get to 100. I want you to understand what we're doing. But yes, it is still 99. Yes, it is. Yes. But cool. So a while loop works a little bit better in this case. Not works a little bit better, but it follows the same paradigm. It's almost exactly like an if statement. It says, if this is true, go ahead and run it and just keep running it as long as this is true. So we can print out 0 to 100 right now. So we got the first piece down pat. All good to go here. All right. And the raindrops story, or the raindrops problem, already gave you a little bit of insight on what we need to do to solve something like this. So let's start putting in our logic, because now we're already counting to 0 to 100. So what we want to do is we want to say for numbers that are evenly divisible by 3, go ahead and print fizz. So again, how do we check if something is evenly divisible by another number? We use modulo, and they brought up modulo. So modulo is the percent symbol. Modulo is division. So it does divide, but it returns the remainder. So how can we use modulo to know something is evenly divisible by another number? That would be that there's no remainder. So if there's no remainder, that means something's evenly divisible. So again, like something like 60 modulo 10. We know that 10 goes into 60 6 times. It goes in evenly 6 times. Our answer is 0, so we get 0 back. So we can use that information to determine whether or not something is evenly divisible by another number. So let's hop back into our code. Let's hop back into our code and use that. So we're gonna use modulo. And what else can we use? What else can we use to determine for numbers that are evenly divisible by? So if we want to check if something is true or false, and basically decide if code is going to execute, what can we use? Let's think about what we just learned. We just learned that we just simply learned that we can use if statements. So I can say if. I can use if here to figure out if I want to use the word fizz here. So what are we checking here? What's the first thing we want to check? Again, if something is evenly divisible by 3, how do we check that? We want to say if basically we want to check the number that we're currently on. And we know the number that we're currently on, because we're counting to 100, is counter. We're using counter to select the number that we're on. So we're going to say if counter divided by, or modulo 3. So we can do that. So we just said if counter modulo 3, this is always going to evaluate to true. So like this is not even a real statement here. But to check if it's evenly divisible, we can check if it's equal to 0. So if counter modulo 3 is equal to 0, that will give us a true statement will only be if the number is evenly divisible. Go ahead and print out fizz. All right, so that's how we determine to print fizz. We're doing an if statement, and we say if counter, if the number that we're currently on in this loop, if it divided by 3 or modulo 3 equals 0, go ahead and print the word fizz. And then we still have our other stuff in here, print counter, and then we're adding 1 to counter each time. So let's go ahead and let's run this bit of code and see what happens. Oops. Man, I do that all the time. I don't know why I do that all the time, because in no other language that I use can you just do that. So we can already tell there's some fizzes here, but let's go back to 0 and see what's happening. So first thing that happens is it prints fizz. I don't know why that's happening. We can check that in a second. It prints out 0, prints out 1, it prints out 2, it prints out fizz. So we know the next number after 2 is 3. 3 divided by 3 does equal 0. The remainder will be 0. So 3 modulo 3 is 0. So 3 is evenly divisible. So it decided to go ahead and print fizz. So we know now that our if statement is working, but we also see number 3 here. We were kind of expecting to see fizz, but we know that our code says for numbers that are evenly divisible by 3, print fizz instead of printing the number. So why? Let's talk about why it also printed the number. And actually, let's go back 1 second. You can see here at 3, and then we can see here, we know 6 is also evenly divisible by 3. It printed fizz like in its place. It was supposed to do it right after the 5. So that makes sense, but it still printed out the number. So let's take a look back at our code and let's determine why this happened. So this code runs once. Counter is 0. The first time this runs, counter is 0. It says, is 0 less than 100, less than or equal to 100? It says, yep. It runs this code. It says, if 0 modulo 3 equals 0, print fizz. And is 0 divided by 3 0? Is 0 divided by any number 0? Yes. So it is 0. So it prints fizz. That is why the first thing we see here is in fact fizz, because the first time this runs, this is in fact true. So we've solved one thing. We've solved one reason like why we see fizz up front. It goes through, so it does that, but then it gets down here. So I think we talked about Python. In Python, white space matters. So the extra space and stuff that's here matters. Indentation matters. So because these are on the same line as the if statement, these will also get run. So these will get run because they're not inside. They're not a part of this if statement. They are completely separated from the if statement. So this runs, evaluates to true or false, and it acts accordingly, but it still runs this no matter what. So the same way thing we were doing before is printing all the numbers, this will still happen. So on the first time, when it puts in 0, it says 0 modulo 3 equals 0, print fizz. So it printed fizz, but then it got down here and it said also go ahead and print counter, which is still 0, and add 1 to it. So it goes through, it runs again at 1, counter 1 modulo 3 is equal to 0. No, it's not. So we don't get another fizz, but it still prints out the counter here, adds 1 to it, and so on and so forth. So again, loops can be a little bit complicated to like wrap your mind around, for sure. So don't sweat it if you're not understanding the loop of it right now. What I want you to take in is that we're using modulo, something that we learned before, to determine if a number is evenly divisible, and we're using these if statements to control the flow and control what gets executed. So how can we change this to control the flow and what is executed to not print counter every time? So we wanted to basically print this. If this is true, we want to print this and not print this. The way we can do that is to include this print statement in this block of code. So what do we learn our other option was? We could basically say else if, and if we do an else if we do an elif, we have to give it a conditional. So is there any good conditional you can think of that would like be available to print the number? Not really. So for the first option, we want to print fizz for everything that's evenly divisible by 3. So we can't really we could use an elif here and think of some crazy thing to put in here, and we would still get some weird stuff. We'll still get some weird stuff. But what we can do is use a default case. We learned about our default cases here with an else. So we can say else. Go ahead and print your counter. So basically, all we have here is it'll check if it's evenly divisible by 3. It'll print fizz. And besides that, so it'll check if this is true. If this is not true, it'll go ahead and do this part no matter what. And so let's separate this out a little bit just so there's some space. All right, so let's go ahead and run this piece of code now. And now we run it and have it super fast, and we still get the fizz up front. 1, 2, fizz instead of 3, which is nice. 4, 5, fizz, no 6, which is nice. 7, 8, 9 is also evenly divisible by 3. Fizz, 10, 11, fizz, 13, 14, fizz, 16, 17, fizz. All right, that looks really good. Every 3 numbers, that's going to be divisible by 3. So we have a bunch of fizzes in here every 3rd number, which is super nice. And going all the way up to 100. So we have satisfied our first piece. Let's see. Elif, not else. I'm never gonna remember which languages have what. I look it up every single time. All right. A lot of stuff in here. So let's go on to YouTube. Sounds like he's talking to a bigger crowd. No, it does go on YouTube. Now it definitely goes. It's not being streamed to YouTube right now. It gets put up on YouTube afterwards. But yeah. Let's see. Print 1, 2 of counter. I come from PHP, use a semicolon. Yeah, the semicolon versus colon versus if you got to do anything at all is weird. That's one of the reasons why I do like Python. And JavaScript's kind of in what is it, ES6 or whatever. You don't need to it'll like interpret it for you, which is super nice. We're gonna get off the elif plot twist soon. Is there a reason why a while loop is better? Yeah. So I was not saying while loops are better. I'm saying they're better in the case of things that we already learned, because you could. It kind of looks like an if statement. It's the same setup as an if statement. It's a little bit easier to understand. Like this looks exactly like this does. Like this is like the same thing. So it's a little bit more easier to understand right now. While loops are not better. I mean, it does depend on what you're doing. Like it depends on what you're doing. Because I like Go, and Go only has for loops because you really can do every loop with a for loop. You can really use any loop to do. I don't know. You got to use the one that's right for the situation. While loops are. I wasn't saying it was the best. Period. It was better. Period. I'm saying it was better for learning right now to like go over the loop thing because for loops, yes, I could have gone over a regular for loop, but also for loops have crap like this. Like for loops also look like this. For x equals 1, while x is less than 100, x plus equals 1. So for loops also look like this. Which is, again, complicated. So that's the only reason we decided to do a while loop, because there are, for loops have a little more caveats here, for sure. Yep, it does go up on YouTube later. Got it. I have a friend who's complaining about having to learn Java. It makes other languages easier. I do agree. Again, I think diving into a statically typed compiled language like Java. Again, I prefer Go. If you're going to do it just for the learning, I would use something different. There are better languages to learn Java. I mean, but again, Java. There are a ton of Java jobs out there. Java is not a bad language. I just think there are better languages nowadays. I do think it would be a good case to learn it. I think it teaches you a lot. That makes it easier to kind of hop over to dynamically typed languages. But again, the learning curve's higher. It's easier. You can kind of get into and write programs a little bit faster with a dynamically typed language like Python or like JavaScript. But yeah, it's yeah. Database results for each. That's so good at programming. That's why I'm here. We'll make you better at programming for sure. Generally, while loops are used when you don't know the exact number of iterations you need. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's actually very true. Like a lot of times, while loops are basically you basically put in you actively put in a true value instead of doing a comparison. Sometimes you actually just put in a true value. It can be the value true, like while true, which is something you can do. Something like this, like while true, capital T in here. So you can say while true, do something, and then it'll do a bunch of code, and it'll keep doing it because you don't know how many times, and you'll have something actively in the code that's underneath it. You'll have it actively do something like make it break. Like you can break out of it with a break, or you'll do something like you'll set a variable equal to true, and you can call that variable, like it'll be like while variable. And the value of that will be true. And then later on, when it does some code, it'll change that variable. It'll say variable equals false. It'll set it to false, and then it'll hit that, and it will no longer run. So yes, while loops are, when you don't really know how many times you want it to run, while loops are better. So like this is not again, like I said, this is not a perfect case for a while loop, but it makes it a little bit easier to understand for us not be the night that we're diving into loops deeply. All right, let's get into the second piece here. So for numbers that are evenly divisible by 5, we want to print buzz instead of printing the number. So this is like the same thing. So let's see if we can do that. So how do we evaluate this? So we could copy exactly what we have right here. So we could do this, and we could paste it, and we could say if counter equals 5, print buzz. All right, so take a look at that. We could do that, but we could do this. But what would happen here? We would get some very interesting output for this. Actually, I like this. I want to show you. I'm going to run this. So we're going to run this as is, and what do we get here? We get fizz, then we get buzz. Then we get 1, 2 fizz, 3, 4 buzz, fizz 6. So we already know we're not supposed to be seeing 3, and we're not supposed to be seeing 6. But we're seeing them now. But we are getting, it looks like fizz is in the right places. It looks like buzz is in the right places. Everything divisible by 5. So at 5 and 10, we are getting buzz, but we're also getting all the numbers we're not supposed to be getting. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at why. Remember, I said there can only be one if per block. So we have 2 ifs here. So these are essentially two separate statements here. So this is one thing. So it goes through and evaluates this. So it basically says, let's imagine counter is 3. Let's imagine counter is 3 right now. It says if counter is if 3 is modulo 3 equals 0, print fizz. So it goes ahead and it prints fizz. But this is a separate block, so it also evaluates this. It says is 3 modulo 5 equal to 0? No. So it's not going to print buzz, but because this else statement is here, it's going to print 3. So it's going to print fizz, but it's also going to print counter because these are 2 separate statements. We got to use what we learned earlier, and let's go ahead and bring this back up, and let's make this. Let's go ahead and make this an elif or an else if. So now we've combined this into one block. So it will try to see if this is true. If not, it'll come down here. It'll say, is this true? If not, it'll come down here and it will do this no matter what. If these two aren't true, it will run this. So let's go ahead and see if that runs how we want it to run. And we run it. And we get 1, 2 fizz. So instead of 3, we have fizz, which is right. 4 buzz instead of 5. fizz instead of 6 because 6 is evenly divisible by 3, 7, 8, 9 is evenly divisible by 3, 10 is evenly divisible by 5. So we're in a little weird here. We got 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz, fizz, 7, 8, fizz, buzz. But it does look like it's doing what we want it to do, and it does it all the way down. So we know that 100, the number 100, is evenly divisible by 5. So we know that we should be seeing buzz here at the last place, and we can see that we are seeing buzz there. So we can be confident that that our stuff is correct. Now, last piece here. So we're gonna run through this as is. We're gonna make it as is. We're gonna build it as it's stated, and then we'll move it around. So the last thing is for numbers that are evenly divisible by both 3 and 5. So we need to check if 3 is divisible, if the number is evenly divisible by 3, and if the number is evenly divisible by 5. Print Fizzbuzz instead of printing the number. So a little bit different from the other things that we did, but we've learned how to do this. We've learned the operators that are necessary to compare multiple values, to do multiple comparison operators to decide on a single true/false value. So let's go ahead and do it. You know, we just had a new line here. Let's go ahead and do elif one more time. And we know we want to check if something is evenly divisible by 3. So let's go ahead and say it's counter modulo 3 equal to 0. And look at this, it says and here. So we learned about and we learned about the or operator. So we learned that if it is and, it means both sides have to be true. What's on the left and what's on the right has to evaluate to true for that statement to evaluate to true. Or there's an or operator, which only one of them has to evaluate to true. But this is an and. So let's go ahead and use the and operator, which is just and. And we can say and counter modulo 5 equals 0. All right, so this statement here, this would have to be true, and this would have to be true for it to run the block of code that is going to exist underneath here. And that is what we want, because we want to make sure it's divisible by both 3 and 5. And here, we're going to go ahead and print out Fizzbuzz. All right. So let's run this. We have all three of our well, 4 things. We're printing 0 to 100. We are printing out fizz for things that are evenly divisible by 3, buzz for things that are evenly divisible by 5, and we are trying to do 3 and 5 to print out Fizzbuzz. Let's see if this works. And if we print it, we're looking through our list, just giving it a little eyeball. I don't see any Fizzbuzzes. I don't see any Fizzbuzzes at all. So let's figure out what the first number is. It's supposed to be Fizzbuzz. Obviously it's going to have to start after 5 because nothing before that can be evenly divisible by 5 besides 0. So it's our 5. Let's hop up a little bit. We get to 10 and it says buzz. So, you know, that's not a number. 13, 14 can't be divisible by 5. 13 can't be divisible by 3 or 5, but 15 is divisible by both 3 and 5, but we only got fizz. So let's take a look at our code. Why do we only get fizz instead of what we wanted? Fizz is this one. So the reason is because 15 is evenly divisible by 3. And so it hit this block of code and then it exited out of the list. So in this case, or in the case of if statements, remember, once it matches, it runs through until it matches. And once it matches, it exits this block of code. So it essentially ends that run of the while loop. So then, counter gets added 1 and it keeps going. So it matched there. So order does absolutely matter here because it evaluates from the top. It evaluates from the very top. So how can we switch up the order for it to work? Simply move, all we gotta do is move this up to here. And make this. So let's go in, order matters. So let's go in let's go in numerical order besides the first one. So let's go 3, 5, and now we gotta switch up all the words. So it's Fizzbuzz, Fizz, and Buzz. All right, so we actually have the exact same code that we had before. We just simply switched up the order. So now the very first thing it will evaluate is this top statement right here. It'll try to evaluate this, and then it'll drop down to here, and then it will drop down to here. So let's see if switching up our order works. Okay, now we see some Fizzbuzzes in here. I see, got a couple Fizzbuzzes in here. So Fizzbuzz on the very first one, instead of Fizz or Buzz, instead of Fizz, because Fizz was first. The first number we said was 15, and we get a Fizzbuzz here. But you keep going. Let's see where our next Fizzbuzz is. Our next Fizzbuzz is here, and it looks like it's after 29, so it's at the 30th spot. So we got 15, we got 30, and we go up some more to see where our next Fizzbuzz is. See that Fizzbuzz is here after 44. So that's 45. So we got 15, 30, and 45. So numbers are starting to sound a little bit related here. What's the next one? The next one is after 59. So it's 60. All right. So this is a complete Fizzbuzz program. It is a complete Fizzbuzz program. Yeah, it is a complete Fizzbuzz program. This is what a lot of people get to here, but we want to think of just a bit deeper, just a little bit of a, it's not even a hack, a little bit of extra here, is let's think about this a little bit deeper. We could run this, and this does exactly what we wanted to do, but every number that's evenly divisible by 3, that's also evenly divisible by 5, has to be evenly divisible by another number. And I think we saw that through the pattern that we were just looking at. All the numbers, we've got 15, we've got 30, we've got 45, and it's basically going to be, the least common denominator for these is basically the product of the things that we are using to find modulo on. So if you multiply 3 and 5, the product of 3 and 5 is 15. So every number that is divisible by both 3 and divisible by 5 must also be divisible by 3 times 5. So everything must also be divisible by 15. So we can simplify this by saying every number that's modulo 15 equals 0. Go ahead and print Fizzbuzz. And now we've made our math just a little bit simpler here, and we can run it again, and it goes through, and we can see we get the same output here at 15, at 30, at 45, at 60, and so on. So we have successfully solved our very first algorithm, the very first one. This is the big one. So not the big one, but this is a common one. And again, you'll usually not see it with this while. You usually won't see it with this while loop. For Python in particular, you usually see it with that range function. But that's fine. This works. The goal is to count to 100. The goal is to check these cases here. And this is how you would do it. Again, order does matter here. And that's important. So make sure if you were running through it and you were getting the same thing, you see I never got into any Fizzbuzz, it's because this block of code, once it evaluates, the first thing it hits, it only matches once, and it leaves this alone. It drops out of this block of code, and it goes through and it runs again. So you can see it's not a ton of code here, not a ton of code at all. We could actually make it less lines of code, but we've solved our first algorithm, and this is great. This is all fine and dandy. Hopefully you kind of saw how we worked through the wording of this. That pling plang plong one, the raindrops one, is very similar to this. It's very similar to this. The only things that differ are you have to build a response. So there might be multiple options in there. There's also, yes, you have to build a response, which is fine. We could have done that. But I think it's going to be easier to learn this one and then move on to that one, so you can see how you can kind of build on these ideas. I thought we were going to get through this one a little bit faster. So we're not going to do raindrops right now. We will do that on the algorithm section, but it's good because we already started. You already know a little bit of loops now, even though we have not gone over the loop section, but I hope you got it. So any questions here? Looks like you all got the 15 thing there. And you all got the order stuff that matters. Order matters only if you are using non-prime numbers. Yes, that is that. I think that's true. Prime, yeah, that. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But order always matters because of the order in which it because it does evaluate an order, but you are correct. It would not matter in some of those cases. I think I've been inspired to name my next dog Fizzbuzz. Do it. Definitely do it. That sounds like a great name. I think my wife would disagree, but I'm sure it'll come around. Yeah, I thought about getting a smaller pet. Like, I got a big dog. I thought about getting a smaller pet like a hamster or like a rabbit. I really wanted a ferret for a long time, but then I heard they stink. So then I didn't want to get one. I don't really want a stinky ferret in my house. If anyone has a ferret and they don't stink, let me know. I would love for you to talk me into getting one, because I like pets are cool. Pets are cool. All right. So recap of tonight. Some of the tangible takeaways. What are some of the tangible takeaways for tonight? Conditional execution of things. I want you to know that you can decide whether or not a piece of code gets executed. So we can write code to do anything, but you are allowed to determine whether or not, or you're allowed to determine the conditions in which a piece of code will run. How do we do that? That is using if statements. So if and else if, which is elif, and else. So if, else if, and else. We can use these to both determine if code is going to run, as well as control the flow of our program. Besides, like we can actually take action. We can run different pieces of code. We can run more code. We can send it down a different pathway to control the flow of our program. We also learned a little bit about switch statements, which do the same thing, but instead of evaluating if something is true or not, it's true or false, it evaluates an expression and it evaluates the actual value of what is output, and you can make some decisions that way as well. We also learned that is not available in Python, even though we're learning Python. Just a good computer science topic to be familiar with. If you're part of the Google Classroom, you can get some information on how to effectively practice that or do that in Python. There are ways to emulate or get the same functionality. And we also dove into algorithms a little bit. We were learning that algorithms is just a fancy way to kind of say what's the chain of operations needed to solve a problem or to get to an end goal. And then we went through one of the most common ones, which is Fizzbuzz. We learned how to count to 100. We learned a little bit about loops. Not a big deal. The tangible takeaway for loops tonight is not how to write a loop or to truly understand it, but to know there's a mechanism in place for you to run code over and over again. That's the only goal for tonight, is for you to understand that you can write a piece of code that executes over and over again without you having to rewrite it over and over again, like we would have done if we wrote print the number 100 times. So you don't have to do things that way. And then we practice a little bit of our conditional and comparison operators. So again, we use a little bit more of checking if things are less than or equal to or greater than, or we use modulo, some of our arithmetic operators to make some decisions and to evaluate statements. So we're starting to put some stuff together. We're really starting to get some things together, and we'll really just build from here. Like this can be, from what we've learned, for you, if you're someone who's only been learning Python, for 2 days a week for, what is this, the fourth week? This at this point is generally where I feel like people start to get overwhelmed and are like, I don't know what's going on here. That is okay, not a big deal at all. Again, focus on those kind of tangible takeaways that I just brought up, the higher level concepts of what are happening. You can pick up the syntax, like even this, like the way this is laid out right now might be confusing to you. But again, break it down, look at this, know that, we talked about while tonight, and that's how we start off a loop. So just when you see the word while, think, oh, loop. I may not know what it's doing, but I know while means it's going to run code over and over again. Oh, when I see an if, I know it's, going to do a comparison and evaluate whether or not something is true or false. And if it is true, it's going to go ahead and allow some other code to run. So that is everything that we have for tonight. Ending right on time. I'm open to a bunch of questions. Back to Twofer. Yeah, Twofer is a great one. Twofer is a good one. And again, it's going to use a lot of the things that we learned tonight to do that Twofer problem. So yeah, let me know how you're doing on that. We are going to do Twofer next time. We're going to hop into some exercism things. We're going to hop into some Project Euler problems. We're going to hop into some just random problems we get off the internet. But I will tell you at the end of this Python course, we will have practiced tons of algorithmic problems, and we will have built probably 2 to 3 like common applications. One might be a little uncommon and a little more fun, but we're gonna do a blackjack game. We have to do a blackjack game. It teaches, we're gonna get to a point where we're doing object-oriented programming. It teaches those concepts really well. And it's a big enough project to where we can spend a couple times on it, and it's like it touches everything, which is super nice. But we'll build some more stuff than just that. Someone actually asked me last time when we did the coding stuff, when we did the beginners stuff for a DevOps course. They were like, I told them that we may build a card game because I thought it's a cliche, but it teaches a lot. It teaches you a lot of concepts. But they were like, oh, like if you teach me how to make blackjack, I'll go ahead and I'll make spades. And I was like, there's a lot more. There's a lot more in there for spades, but maybe that's something we'll try to end with. I've actually never seen anyone build a spades game like in Python, or something like as a project. So maybe we'll do something like that, or you can take that and you can dive deeper into build something else. Use that logic to extend to something else there. I want to ride this stream till you get back to DevOps. Yeah, I mean DevOps is Sunday, Tuesday. So tomorrow, we'll be back tomorrow on DevOps. I'll show you what is in DevOps tomorrow for anyone who's interested in the DevOps life. Academy. Tomorrow on DevOps, we just did the bash scripting lab day. So tomorrow, we're almost into the real fun stuff for DevOps again. Like we were in fun stuff at the beginning, and we're in, the Linux stuff was fun. We're into we're into the very important, boring stuff. Like it's not boring to everyone. I think this is the stuff that like people think about when they think about like engineers. Like I think it's these things right here that they're like this is the stuff that they're imagining, like these protocols and all this stuff. But we're gonna go over this stuff that's super important, like very, very, very important. OSI model. It's definitely something you should be familiar with, but DNS and like these like major protocols like HTTP and HTTPS and FTP, SSL, these are all like how the internet works, how computers talk to each other, how information gets around, the protocols that are necessary to make things work. And since in DevOps we're going to be managing systems, we need to know these things. So we'll get there and we'll do some web server stuff. We'll learn how to how websites are hosted, like when you go to google.com, this course will teach you how like your computer knows where to go, but this will teach you how to how do you serve that? Like, how do you give that information to other people? Let's say you want to host your own website. How would you go ahead and do that? And we'll talk about that then. So the DevOps stuff's getting pretty cool here. And we got a big lab coming up as well for that, which will be kind of nice to kind of put all that stuff together. So definitely check that out with no gaps in between. Hey, feel free. I can leave this up. I can start hosting some other people. Careful with the blackjack program. It will cheat and send mastermind. Oh, I'm cool with that. We can definitely program in a little cheat flag in there so that if you guys are really willing to write a program that you're going to put money into, I will happily take it from you. Yeah, the only problem is all the knowledge gaps. Wish it was a linear progression. Absolutely. It is a huge problem. So I think that's a huge problem with any even software engineering. But yeah, DevOps is so broad. It's so broad that there's always knowledge gaps. There's plenty I don't know. There's stuff on this list that I'm super weak at, like networking. I am not a great. I do not have a lot of networking skills or knowledge. It's definitely in the lower end. I know enough. I know enough. Like I obviously deal with networks and network systems, but like my networking is not amazing at all, and it's okay. Like that is completely okay. That's why we're touching all this stuff, and I know how to make it better if I need to. But right now, I don't need to make it better yet. Go back to Google Classroom. As an example, my Python view, all I have is 6 assignments. Yet I've gotten emails that let me see others. Also, some assignments have heading, but no. That is interesting. I will not think that's good information. Let me add that to this thing because I have a the list to check it out. But that's interesting. All right, so in the DevOps one, I see everything. I don't know. Are you in the DevOps one? Can you not see it in that one either, or are you only in the? Is this only in the Python one? Yes, Esco. I'll send you the link. Actually, if you can join the Discord, you can get it as well. If you join the Discord, anyone who subscribed recently, the people who got gifted subs yesterday, if you join the Discord, it is pinned to the main channel. So just hop into the Discord. And it will do that. It's the same problem let me see here. I wonder if because maybe I didn't give proper access. So I'm going into, so in the DevOps one, I see all the stuff under intro to DevOps, intro to programming, Go 1, Go 2, intro to Linux, intro to Linux 2 didn't do anything, but everything from the Bash scripting lab is there. Maybe I'll just log in here so you guys can see what I see. Let's see if we can get this straight. So I know I did have some problems with it, but this one looks like it has everything for the DevOps one. Someone said the same problem with DevOps. Is this not? I don't know. Do you not see this? Do you not see all these things? Or is there a different view that you're talking about that I'm not in? For that one, that looks like it has all the stuff. But are you saying some of them don't have things inside of them? So link. This looks right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely reach out to me. I definitely want to get it. I definitely want to get it solved. For sure to know what people see. And maybe I'll add I'll also add I should have done that before. I'll add one of my other Gmails. And maybe I know the Python one is missing. The Python one is missing like 2 days of stuff because I did that wrong. So I need to add that in there. But today there's actually one more assignment that's supposed to be in here. And it looks like these didn't get assigned properly. But there are some stuff in here. I only have 6 first. Okay. So you actually can grade things and give. So no, I do not grade things and give feedback right now. That is the goal. I'm actually looking to, that is a later goal. Definitely not grading right now. It's really just resources. Like most of these aren't assignments yet. There are assignments that are coming later. There are assignments that have already been set up that are coming later. I won't grade them, but people will be able to do them and see them and practice. But it's a lot of options to like learn more about like editors, just more resources to dive into things a little bit deeper. So like for this Python one, we didn't do any like Linux command line stuff, but you see me doing a bunch of Linux command line stuff. So in here, I have some stuff about, like bits and bytes and stuff, but there's something in here about like introduction to the command line. So you can learn some like Linux command line stuff and just some extra things that kind of will help you get along track. The goal is to create like meaningful work that can be like graded and evaluated. But that is I didn't want to just like be like, yo, go do Fizzbuzz like at all. Cause I don't think that's valuable. I think if you're going to give assignments, there are things that are more valuable, more thoughtful, I guess. to be able to put in there. But just didn't, like I said, I still have a full-time day job, so just didn't get to get as granular as I wanted with the assignments. But I still can add more. So if there are things that people are looking for, just let me know. Cool. Yeah, 88 opens. Just shoot me your number somewhere, and I will do that. Do you have to log in each time? Just get some. Let's see. I'll grade and help get feedback. Oh, cool. Yeah, that would be great. If anyone inside or anyone wants to be a part of it, who wants to, like, feel free to give people feedback. I'll give you access if I need to give you access. I'd love to learn and use Vim as well. Yes, I will. We did a little bit of an introduction to Vim. I can give you some resources for that. Maybe I'll just throw some resources in here. Yeah. So also, it is. I put it on the calendar. On February. What is it? February. Let me look at the calendar. It is the second week. It's the first week in February. So February 6th. February 6th. I've been talking about it forever. This platform, basically we're gonna be creating Masterminds is gonna be creating this open source repository. And there are a lot of things out there like this already. But it's gonna be an open source repository to basically we're gonna be curating courses like for the world, so just for everyone. So a lot of this information is already out there. Like, there's tons of Python people on YouTube teaching Python. There's tons of articles written, tons of people teaching DevOps concepts and stuff. But there's it's not an order. No one's telling you which one to go to first, which one to go to next. So I'm going to be building out an open source repo where basically you can build out. I'm putting together the READMEs for it right now. But basically, you can just submit basically list of not just random courses that are they have to be well thought out. There's going to be a lot of people who are moderating this, but we're going to be so this Python course, you would have to submit first a syllabus or a curriculum of the things that are going to be in it, and then provide it'll allow you to provide videos, audio stuff, and documentation and text-based things, and it will basically be this repo of things. And then there's another tool that I built that we're building upon that will actually consume that repo. So that repo will be by itself. So anyone who's wants to just look through it and follow it that way can, but this platform will consume all this information and build it out into a statically generated site that's like Code Academy or Team Treehouse or something, so that you can go through it, you can log into it, you can go through it and kind of follow your progress and go through these courses as they're built out. So again, it's just a way. I think it's gonna be a cool project. I think it's gonna be a really fun project, and I'm interested to see what people can make it. But basically, just curating the information that's already out there on the internet and being able to consume it in a good way. Because again, there's tons of Git repos already with here's how you can basically learn a computer science, get a computer science degree education if you just follow these things here. But again, one, you got to be familiar with GitHub. Two, you got to go through, you got to click the stuff, remember where you're at. We're gonna basically make it so that you don't have to do that, and you can have a nice, pretty, beautiful, organized way to go through and do that. So that should be fun, and that's something we can all be a part of. If you don't know how to code, if you don't know how to do any of that stuff, even if it's a topic that people can submit any kind of course topics. If your specialty is design, if your specialty is woodworking, there'll be categories obviously, but you can create and submit that. It can be reviewed, and I don't know. I think it'll be a fun thing. I'm interested to see how it'll evolve and how we can all contribute to it. So yes. Mastermind certificates. Sure. I don't know. I would only do something like that if I really started grading and all that stuff. I want this to be chill. I don't want people to feel like they've got to really get this stuff right. And I don't know, just that's why the music's on. real chill atmosphere, man. Let's talk tech. Let's learn tech. You know, it's not you don't have to kill yourself to try to learn this stuff. It doesn't have to be this super stringent thing. You know, if you like that, you can make it that. You can absolutely make it that. But I don't know. I think it's super chill. What about Teachable? I don't know anything about Teachable. I'm gonna check that out right now. Let's check out Teachable. Is that what Teachable is? Is our open source project what this is? Oh, create and sell. At this time, I am not interested in selling. Well, okay, I take that back. I am considering making specifically a DevOps course, but only because the lack of DevOps like guidance, because it's such a broad thing. But I'm not interested in doing this right now, only because, again, I think that other people are just as good or better at doing this as me. Like for those type of courses, I think there's an abundance of things out there. I think that, you know, I don't know. The goal isn't to really like make a bunch of money off of teaching. The goal is to really get people into tech and help them grow. I like the interactivity of this a little bit more, but maybe something like this. But I want to be able to do like the same way we have stuff on here on Teachable. I want people to be able to go to a free site and get the same thing. Like, again, the content is already there. Like, you can go to YouTube and learn anything. Like, you can literally learn anything, which is great. And so people learn in different ways. So people learn via video, people learn via audio, some people learn best via, reading. And so it'd be nice if we could have a place where, yes, we could run you through Python variables, and we could show you a video of someone explaining Python variables super well. But what if I could also point you to a podcast that discuss some of the basics of Python, and it can be right underneath that video, and underneath that could be the official documentation for Python and how to set variables. If you want, also links to W3 schools. I don't know. I think that would be really cool. I really think that would be cool. Oh, you don't have to charge? Oh yeah, I'll check it out. Is Teachable just like the software to create it, or is this a platform? Oh, cool. Oh, just to create the course? Yeah, I actually would check that out. I actually will check this out because I do want to create some consumable courses for people to. Everyone can't join in live. Everyone doesn't get all the answers they need live. We go off on tangents on different things. Some people just like the structure of a course like this, like that a little bit more. So I am considering it for sure. But right now, I don't have the time. I really don't have the time for it, like right now. But definitely something I would try out. Cloud on Fleek, have you tried Teachable? Have you checked it out and seen? Like, have you give it a try? Is it easy to use? TalkPython.fm, awesome. I didn't know, but I never heard of. Talk Python podcast. It's cool. I really like development and engineering podcasts. Because one of the insight that they give you, because you're not looking for code, you're not looking at code, and again, it's conceptual. It's you can really hear something. You can hear a conversation about something, and it not affect you for months. And you run into a problem, you run into something, you're like, oh my gosh, like I have so much context around this because I heard about this on a podcast, and I heard them talking about how to solve something like this, how to approach something like this, and it's pretty cool. Podia, a similar. Because my only concern, here's my biggest concern. I used to learn mainly from video. I love videos. Like A Cloud Guru is like one of my favorite things. My only problem is that videos are boring. They're boring. So if I can find a way to make them not boring, I would love to. I'll check out. This looks cool. Everything you need to sell online courses. Podia, I'll check that out. Python is used in more things than more people know. That is very true. Python is used so many places. There are a lot of ways I see for you to make money without online course revenue. Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, the goal is, and again, I let everyone know, but it's check out mastermind.io. We went to academy.mastermind.io, but this is, like I said, I went through a business incubator. One thing I am passionate about is not only I am passionate about teaching technology. I'm very passionate about getting giving access to people to learn this stuff, because again, I think, you know, it's a unique industry in which a degree is not, I don't care what anyone tells you, a degree isn't required, and like there's such an abundance of information out there, and there's so many jobs in this right now, at least in the United States, that you can really, like, if you invest the time in it, you can really make something of yourself, like very much so. Like it's not like if you work super hard, you'll get there. It's like, man, if you just spend time around it and looking at it and give it a little energy, like you will get a job in this industry if you want to get a job in this industry. So I'm passionate about that, just because, again, the amount of opportunity in the industry is pretty high. But also, like, one thing that I've learned is that people don't know how to advocate for themselves. Like, people don't know how to talk about what they like. People don't know how to sell themselves. And like, one thing I'm really good at, I'm good at interviewing. I've gone on tons of interviews, and I've learned that a lot of companies are bad at interviewing, and a lot of companies also are bad at knowing what they need. Like, it's just as hard for a lot of companies to understand the types of engineers that they need as it is for you to like know what you need to learn next to be the engineer that they want you to be. So again, Mastermind is bigger than just this Mastermind Academy. And so I will have a place for you. You can reach out on the contact form here to send your resume, but I will give you guys a call to action when things are a little bit further, which will be very soon. But the goal is to also place people, is to help people get jobs. Pretty simple. So that's really the way that we're going to monetize this. The goal is that feeds into this, and that we're able to teach more classes and have other people teach, you know, more topics in the tech industry, not just cloud, not just programming. Again, things like design, like really any like all of the disciplines that go into delivering software is really what the tech industry is. And there's more than that, but like, that's the main focus right now. So again, things like design, things like testing and QA, and even things like Scrum mastering and leading digital projects and product ownership and things like that. Like, I would love to be able to provide people those things, because these are the things that are super valuable and kind of hard to get the information for. Yeah, so that's again, just keeping you guys up to date with what my hopes and dreams are for the channel, and with Mastermind, period. I don't know, I really just like the idea of just building a community where people can go to just like get help, like know what to do, like be pointed in the right direction. Like it's been crazy how you guys have helped each other in the chat. I'll look through the chat and like, oh, I'm so far behind. Everyone's already answered the questions, and people will ask things in the Slack, and people will already give them tons of resources and stuff. And I think that's the best. I love that. And so I don't know, just doing what I can. I like the edX style, a bit of reading, a bit of videos and quizzes. Yes, I agree. Cloud on Fleek. I like that as well. The edX style, a little bit of reading, a little bit of video, some quizzes. That is my preferred go-to method. I almost no longer watch full videos when I'm learning a new topic or concept. I've actually defaulted, I don't know how I got here, because this used to be the hardest thing in the world, but I actually default to official documentation, actually, and parsing through those as well, with a little bit of video for some context, and quizzes and things are great. I'm going to see if there's a way to do it. I don't know if this is a candidate to do live on stream, but the goal is actually, like, one of my goals for this year is to, I think I'm just going to go ahead and grab all the AWS certs this year. I think I can grab all the associate level ones pretty easily. And I think it would just be cool to have them, and not really for a career progression, because again, the goal is to move into doing Mastermind. But I think for a number of reasons, I want to get all the associates. I think are pretty easy, but in both professionals, and I want to do it pretty fast. So I wonder if I'm interested to see if anyone has any ideas on a cool way to do a structured, like if I'm going to be learning and I'm going to be like spending some time studying, if there's a good way to do like a group either on Twitch or another platform or whatever. I don't know if that would work, but I'm definitely interested in trying that out, maybe like on a Friday or Saturday. Just having someone have a study session in case anyone else is interested, and then we can do it on more things as people want to learn different things. But those are the things that I want to go through first. Duke Nukem, you suck at interviewing? Yeah, I mean, interviewing is, I'm telling you, if you can man, if you learn how to really market yourself in an interview, it changes the game. I'm telling you, there was a period of time where I was interviewing, like I was just sending out resume after resume. I had a job, I was just interviewing because it was such an interesting like thing. Like I got burned in a bad interview, and I don't know, that just showed, like, I learned so much from that, I don't know, I just want to see what I didn't know so that I could figure out how to move to the next level. And I kind of got like addicted to it for a little while. And once you realize that, one, half of the time the interviewer is not an expert. Everyone thinks the person you're in front of is an expert. What people are really looking for is some level of experience, that you've touched the things that you said you've touched, and you touched the things that can that are going to be beneficial for this job. Two, that you're a reasonable person who I can possibly work with. That's the one big thing that can save you. That, like, hey, I like this person, I can work with them, and that you have some aptitude and you have some drive. If you can kind of show those things, it can help, and then you can win in any of those categories. So maybe you're an expert in the topic, so you can really kill them with that. You can really kill them with your personality. You can really kill them with things that interest you. People are kind of afraid to talk about themselves in interviews. Like let yourself be free. And it gets easier. It does. I am speaking to you from a place of privilege. I've been in the industry now. So I have, I know that there are jobs that I can get. I'm not trying to get my first job in the industry or make these big leaps. So it is easier to say, it's easier to say it when you're in that position. It's easier to go in and do that when you're in that position. But, getting comfortable enough to kind of just let yourself shine through a little bit is, people can feel that. People can feel your genuineness. People need to learn that it's okay to say you don't know something. And there's some tips and tricks around that. We're going to be talking about interviewing and cracking the interview, not specifically with just coding, but there are ways to acknowledge you don't know something, but also to show that you know things about that or things adjacent to that, and ask the right questions. It is okay to also ask for an explanation of the thing that you don't know. I've never heard of that technology. I've never heard of that practice. Do you mind sharing, what that is really quick for me? Things like that are great tools. But yeah, interviewing is fun. It's an art. It's for sure an art form, and you won't win them all. You definitely won't win them all. Even once you're good at interviewing, there are some people you just won't mesh well with. You'll be sitting in front of an interviewer who just, you guys will never click. And it just won't work out, even if you're the most qualified candidate. It's a numbers game. But again, the numbers are in our favor. You're trying to learn tech, the numbers are far in our favor. There's so many jobs out there that just everyone's just looking for people. Everyone's just looking for people right now to fill their positions. So just get comfortable. Usually dominated by 18 to 25-year-old people. I agree. If you're 30, 35 trying to get a tech job, you're wasting your time unless very credible credentials. I definitely disagree with the you're wasting your time. Especially at 30 or 35, you are not, maybe this is a Silicon Valley thing, but that is not the case. No one on my project, there are actually very few people between 18 and 25 where I work now, or at a lot of the companies that I know of, the more tech companies in the area. I actually think 30 to 35 is the prime age right now for people in tech. I don't know. I definitely don't think, I think if you're older, I think if you're in your late, I think if you're in 50s, I think up to early 50s is when people start to, throw in the ageism a little bit, and it might make it a little tough. And again, I actually think the ageism thing is definitely ageism, but it has a lot of parallels to race for culture in tech companies. It can be difficult. Someone who, when a 28-year-old when a 28-year-old bro is interviewing a 50-year-old non-bro, it can be hard for them to kind of make that connection for sure. The industry has no shortage of its problems in that aspect, but I definitely think 35 is definitely not the cap for sure. It's definitely not the cap at all. Yeah, 30, 35 is so young. And so I do think, so it's interesting because I do think that being a little bit older, like being middle aged, like in your mid to late 40s, I think I do think it's hard for like your your non like managerial positions. Like I think people, yeah, I don't know. I think if you're not coming in to be like a tech lead or like a a director or something like that in that age, I can see it being hard. I've seen it. I've seen people like be turned down by that. Like I've seen it before. So yeah, I mean there are definitely dynamics at play here. But my only caveat would be to say that I think these issues permeate to other industries as well. And so if you're going to have to fight in any industry to make your place or to find your place, again, go to the industry that has a shortage of people, for one, and two, go to the industry that gives you the most flexibility in that aspect as well, and go to an industry that's, I guess, a little more, I wouldn't like politically liberal, to be 100% honest, because again, there's going to be, it won't be everywhere. There'll be plenty of places you're discriminated against, and plenty of places that make it tough. But also there are some people in the industry who are looking out for people like you, or at least who care about people in your same situation who you may be able to find. Yeah, I don't know. I found out all industries so far that I've seen. I've worked in a few different industries that tech seems to be, because tech's super liberal, and that can work in your favor when you're in one of the disadvantaged groups, for sure. Because tech is so big right now, you will be flooded. You'll definitely be flooded with out of country, with offshore candidates, for sure. Because again, it's lucrative. It's lucrative, and right now, for the most part, people just need you to do the job. Yeah, there are a lot of Silicon Valley companies who need you to be amazing and be the super smart Stanford grad, know how to do all this stuff. But most companies need someone to update their website as they have new products and make sure their website's up and do this because their website makes them money. But it's really not rocket science. Yeah, they're always trying to make you a manager. Yeah, it's true. It is true. But you don't always. It isn't always about lead. I completely understand. Like having to be forced in that world does kind of suck. It sucks. You don't always want to do that. It's not always what you want, for sure. There are caveats to being a manager. Managers can code too, but a lot of places they sit in meetings most of the day, and they help people along, and they don't really get to do some of the stuff that they really love to do. Yeah, like like I said, I'm a DevOps engineer who hasn't got to do a ton of like DevOps stuff in a long time. I've written a lot of code, but it's more application specific. Not really. I haven't been really working on infrastructure as much as I want with AWS. We're doing a bunch of infrastructure stuff right now, but the goal is to make sure that we're teams cross-function and everything. So our devs, even though they're engineers, we have engineers on our team, and they're capable of doing these things. So we're getting some cross-functionality. They're getting to work on the things that I would traditionally be responsible for working on. So yeah, so like yes, you don't get to. When you're in I'm not really in a management position, but in a lead position, like you don't get to do a lot of that stuff that you want to do. So I definitely understand. That sentiment, Adam. How much to hire you to do infra and DevOps stuff, Mastermind? That is an excellent question. Working a full-time job and doing this has taught me a lot about the value of your time. So a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. I'm not the best DevOps engineer in the world, but I'm very good. I'm very good at creating. I'm very good at creating reliable, efficient infrastructure. I'm very good at creating scalable Infrastructure support. I'm very good at solving problems. That's what you'll be paying me for. I'm very good at solving problems. I'm not very good at, I'm not the best person who knows AWS. I'm not the best person who knows I can write all the Go code. I'm not the best person who can do all this, but I am very good at solving problems. That is what I get paid for. And so now it would cost a lot. But don't worry, we're gonna talk money a lot. What's the number? Good. I mean, again, a good question. Right now, that's actually a very difficult question to answer right now because of the things that I'm trying to do. So I almost would say nothing right now. Right now, I couldn't be hired to do any DevOps work. If I wanted to be a W-2 employee for someone, not a cop out. I'll talk money all day about this. If you wanted to hire me right now to be a DevOps engineer on your team, again, adding in what it would take from where I work right now, I actually have a lot of loyalty to them. It's a place like that I love. I'd be 100% honest. You got to give me 190,000 to get me to go work a W-2 position. Definitely 150K minimum for sure. Oh no. So Cloud on Fleek, salary discussions are very important. People we have very candid salary discussions. We try to save it. For the engineering panel at the end. We have very candid salary discussions on this channel for sure. Salary transparency is super important, something that I'm very passionate about. But I also, the only reason I was even hesitant to start saying anything is that it doesn't, there's no context around my statement just now. There's no context. You don't have any, right now you think, this guy makes 190K. No, I don't make 190K, but there are things that are to account for. Again, things like leaving leaving a company that is invested in me personally. There are things that have to do with future goals. There's a lot of things that go into that. So again, the context matters, but salary transparency and compensation is very important. We will talk about that. We will talk about that. And again, if you have questions about it, we can start the conversations on it. But again, I like to have those conversations with context around them. So again, also people who are, last time I said something about this, everyone knows that I push Fearless a lot. Again, I still work at Fearless. Fearless is a great place. They're not going to give you $190,000. So don't think you're about to put in a resume at fearless.tech and be like, yo, give me 190. Not happening. We're a Baltimore tech company. That's different type of money. Different type of company. Total comp, 150, 190. Total comp might need to be a little more than that. I learned a lot about total comp recently. But yeah, might need to be a little bit more than that. But again, the market for DevOps, again, let's put a little context around this. So DevOps engineer, average salary. Let's put a little context around this. So this is actually low from the things that I've seen, but I've seen more things like this. The average is going to be different. We'll check a couple different sites. 6 days ago. All right, so we've got 133 for senior DevOps engineer salary. So I've about 10 years of industry experience, and so we've got 93 on pay scale, which is a lot lower. And then what do we have here? So we have 99 here. I think these are off just from. I think this is way off. I don't know if I think it's 133, but I think it's close to this. This is a different title. This is senior, but on the East Coast and the West Coast, if you are 150 is if you are a mid-senior to senior DevOps engineer, you can go almost any company almost any company and grab 150. Like 150 is a very standard, like you're a good DevOps engineer, I'll pay you $150. You've worked on you've worked on large scale infrastructure. You've worked in kind of these fast paced environments with developers and things. 150 is a very it's attainable. There's a lot of companies who will pay 150. Everyone won't pay 150, but it's like a lot of companies will pay 150, at least on the East Coast, specifically in the DC, Baltimore area, Northern Virginia, and then as you go up the coast closer to New York, and in New York it goes higher, and then even like Boston and stuff is high as well. West Coast is high, is even higher, but cost of living and things like that. So look at this. Look at the nationwide average. But look at this. Baltimore is higher than the nationwide average. People, that might be confusing to people. So this is the national average. I mean, 150 is I promise you, a very normal salary for specifically DevOps right now. And again, those things will change as things differ. But yeah, there's a lot to go into that, and that's why the salary discussion is so hard. Depending on where you are in the country, depending on where you're at. Where you're at technically, it's really hard to know where you're at technically. And again, I know that people get paid. I know that people get paid $190K to solve problems that I solve. And again, that is just from me. That's a lot of that comes from salary transparency conversations, me talking to people divulging that information to me, and being able to have conversations with them, knowing where they're at, knowing where I'm at. And that's why it's so important. Like if I would never even thought, like maybe like 6 years ago, to like ever go ask for 150s was like ludicrous to me. Like I was like, I'm good. Like I think I was making like 85. I was like, I am good. Like I'm cool with this. I'm not making any waves. And I started talking to people who like, I knew more then. Like I'm having conversations with people at conferences, and I'm meeting people, and I was like, I know just as much as you, and you're telling me you're making 140, and like you have less experience than me. Like you're making 140, and it's like, again, that only comes from talking to people and like having people share this information with you. And it can be uncomfortable. It can definitely be uncomfortable, but I think that's where the value in something like this comes in. Like knowing what people are paying, knowing what you can ask for, like knowing what you can work for, and knowing when you're being screwed over. Like I think generally people won't try to screw you over, but like knowing when you're being screwed over, I think you would be surprised. But I do think it's valuable. I won't always share specifics, but I always give you a ballpark. Like where I'm at right now, my total compensation is actually pretty high. Like, Fearless pays for things like I don't pay any money for me and my dependent, my wife, for healthcare, dental, all that stuff. We get, tech budgets we can go out and buy. We get a reimbursement for buying, big ticket tech items, things like, we also get like a pretty good, education budget every year to go do a bunch of stuff. Like we get a lot of perks, things like snacks, etc. We get a lot of perks for total compensation. Again, like I don't pay for benefits, are all taken care of. But I'm not going to give you the exact number right now, because I think that'll become more important later. But I'm in the 140 to 160 range, in Baltimore. And that is common. I've interviewed for jobs while I've been at Fearless, just to know the market. And I've been offered, that's been generally the range for non-lead positions, in DevOps, with the amount of experience that I have, in the 40 to 60 range, 140 to 160 range is very, very common, for sure. I don't think I could ever feel comfortable asking for more than 80K tech job unless I was developing new stuff. You'll feel more comfortable when you realize that like how much these companies are paying. Like it is again, it felt weird, but it is like your skills are valuable to the company. Like you being able to create features and to ensure the company's tech footprint can continue to stay up and do what it needs to do to make them money. That's valuable. People will pay for that. Everyone on my team makes significantly more than 80K. Exactly. See, 100%. You guys pay for someone trying to break into the tech industry? Oh yeah, that's a great question. Sorry to sound ignorant, but I have no idea what tech jobs actually pay. Yeah, they're all over the place. Like, again, developer jobs, depending on the technical stack and what the needs are, can range, anywhere from, in the US, and again, these are US prices, and again, it differs coast to coast, but like it can go anywhere from 40 to 45,000 for like a super junior job at some places, up to the same thing, $190,000, $200,000, depending on the type of software engineer you are. So there's a big range. There's a big range. If you're in an engineering role, for the most part, I do like if you're in the 6 to 7 years of experience range, once you're there, like, I think no matter which sector of the industry you're in, you should be making six figures from what I'm seeing, right? At least the way the market is right now. The market is, it is a candidates market right now. And I think a lot, like, if you have the knowledge, like if you've taken the time to earn the skills, and you've picked up the skills through the job or on your own, I think that it's hard to do, but I think you should go out and look for what you were. Again, that's not the only thing that matters. Work environment matters. Your peace of mind matters too. Like I said, I took a job. I think it was my third job. I went from making 55K to like 68K. And when I tell you, I was so miserable in that job that I walked out after getting yelled at for, I couldn't even do work yet. Like I was actually going through the clearance process, and I wasn't allowed to touch any systems, and I was getting yelled at for systems being down. And like, I was like, I can't do this. And so I left. So like, I learned then that money's not everything. Let's clear that up first. Money is not everything. And your base salary is not everything. Some places, I know people who are worth 160 a year, who are making 120, but also get like quarterly bonuses of $25,000. So it's like, you got to factor these things out to your total compensation. So there's a lot of information about this. I know that's what people like to talk about a lot. So I know I'm skipping over a lot of chat questions, and I'm sorry about that. Poe Bruin Bob, that's awesome. Congratulations on the new job. Congratulations on the pay bump, for sure. Yeah, share some stuff around. Positive syndrome. I know I have the skills, but I feel like I can't match with others. So that's a real thing. It's a very valid thing. Like, one, being able to work with other engineers is a skill in itself. You say you have the skills, so it may be something where you can really start to look for remote companies, and where there's a surprising amount of collaboration in remote companies. You're not always just sitting by yourself doing your work, but it gives you it may give you a better framework to work better with other people, mesh well, because maybe you don't got to turn on your camera or something. But I don't know. It does take a little bit of practice. Imposter syndrome happens because I swap between many different trade skills tracks. Once you start working, it disappears. Yeah, I agree. I still get, actually, I'll get little hints of imposter syndrome, because again, where I think my value is not necessarily in my technical prowess. I think I have a lot of technical prowess, but I don't think that's where my value is. I think my value is in, one, I think I have pretty good people skills. I'm a great problem solver, and I do really well with like pressure and like tense situations or situations that can just high pressure situations. And so because of that, sometimes when we're doing something that is crazy tech, like a problem you face that's not process related, and it's technically challenging, but like you've exhausted all of the things that you know that you picked up over the years. You've exhausted all of your options. Yeah, you can, like, I definitely run into that sometimes, but then you realize that, like, hey, like, no one else, like I don't know anyone else who can help me solve this. Like, I'm working with other people, we're working on this together. Like, you don't need to know everything, and two, like, really start to, again, the more you talk to other people, the more you kind of not compare yourself to other people, but to understand what people know. Like, again, talk to people, find out like what their level is, and like what, like, you know, how many years of experience they have and stuff, just so you can get everyone needs a barometer of like what people know. Like, I think people think that everyone knows all this stuff, and yes, there are a few people who know everything. They're just crazy smart, big brain thinkers, like, but that's just, I don't know. It's just not that serious out here. Like, it's not, focus on the concepts, and you learn how to solve some problems. Like, you're valuable, and you can help come to a solution for any problem that you come against. It doesn't always have to be you. It's okay if you can't figure it out, but you should be able to put your head together with someone else and do that. Would you ever want to do a talk with some engineers, like a lunch and learn, even remotely? Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. I would be happy to do that. Reach out. I would love to. And again, we're doing so there is a panel. There's a panel at both the end of the DevOps one. Let's see. This one on March 22nd, and I think we're doing one the next day. I think it's March 22nd and March 23rd. So this one, the one for Python, will be all software engineers, and the one for the DevOps engineer will be a combination. It wasn't going to be only DevOps engineers, but because of the nature of DevOps, it will be DevOps engineers and software engineers. This software engineering one will be mostly software engineers. I might include some other engineers on that panel as well, but we'll talk about a lot of, like we talk about tons of this stuff, and you can go back and actually I'll share it. Let me give you the link to the last one where we talk about a lot of all the salary conversations, people just kind of getting real about what they've done. Let me grab that video for you really quick, because I think that one's valuable. So here we go. And we did this cool. We had an owl camera, and it's not the best quality, but yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen it, check that out. I think it's got some decent information. There's a variety of levels in this room. There's a CTO in the room. There's someone this guy Doug, at the time he was at Under Armour. He was an engineer at Under Armour, and now he's actually the technical lead at a place called Leafly, which is dope. And so like he's like the engineering manager there. But like this Malcolm at the time, this guy here, he's actually my brother-in-law. He had just finished up school. So he didn't even have a job yet at this time. And this woman here, she was a level 1. She had just started doing DevOps, like literally like that month, or she was about to start. October. So she had started already, but she'd been in for about a month. So yeah, and Alex is a good like mid-level engineer. So I don't know, just the experiences in the room were just they're really varied. We could have got a more diverse panel, but these are the people who showed up for me when I asked. I help run I used to. I don't have as much time anymore, but there's a meetup called Baltimore Black Techies. It's a group here in Baltimore just to kind of help African Americans get into tech. Kind of, we run courses and things like that. But when I was reaching out and looking for people, I asked a bunch of people at work. Most people don't want to stay at work super late, but these are like my friends. Like, I hang out with them more than just work. So they decided to show up for me because this was pretty late for a lot of people. You know, we were on here until like 10 or 11. So yeah, so check it out. I think there's some good information there. But I think this next one will be more informative. Again, I've been a little more intentional about getting a more diverse set of engineers, different backgrounds, different pay scale, different levels, all that, where people can come ask anything they want. But cool. Sorry if I missed any of your questions tonight. Again, reach out in the Slack or the Discord. Post them in there if you want to start any conversations that you want to go a little bit deeper that I missed. But I got some work to do. I got some other stuff that I got to work on. So I'm gonna cut this Now, thanks everyone for sticking around. Thanks for all the great questions. Thanks for all the great conversation. I do love the extra conversation that we get to have after this. Again, really nothing industry related is going to be off the shelf. It's going to be off limits on the channel. We want to shed all the information. Again, sometimes we won't, just because of the context around things, but it won't be because we're not going to talk about it. It's going to be because there's a better time for us to talk about it. But cool. I'm glad we can have a little bit of that conversation. Hopefully I shared a little bit of insight there. Everyone have a great night. I'll see you back on Wednesday or tomorrow if you want to learn a little bit of sweet Linux networking and security and protocols and stuff like that. But everyone have a good night. Have a good rest of the week as well. Actually, nope. Sorry. I'm going to rate. We're going to rate someone. I didn't rate anyone yesterday. I did want to check. There was a guy yesterday that I found. I want to see if he's online right now. Who was just doing he's like a self-taught coder who like doesn't work in the tech industry. He just likes to do it for fun, and he was actually worried about getting a job in the industry, so he didn't do anything. He doesn't have a job yet, or he doesn't try to get one, but I don't see him online right now. So we're gonna go ahead and head over to our favorite. Actually, hold on, maybe he is online. No, he is online. We're going to head over to a dude named Isaiah Creative. I think it's supposed to be creative, but he looks like he's doing some website stuff. So if you're interested in any website stuff, you can check that out. But we're going to head over and we're going to rate him now. So let him know, say hi. I'll stick around for a little bit. But everyone have a good night. Let me see if I can type his name in right. Isaiah. I already messed it up. Isaiah Creative. What's that? Bitwise, thank you for the follow. Create. That seems right. All right, you're gonna go there in 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everybody have a good night. Hey, Cloud on Fleek, thank you for the subscription. Let's go raid this guy.